And welcome to our visitors. I've got some housekeeping stuff to go over before we get started. Because my memory's not very good, I have to write it all down. So, a couple of things. Last one. I've talked with staff, and I'd like to implement what I would call a continuous improvement process as part of how we operate. So I want this meeting and the work we do to be responsive to your needs as a committee as well as community needs. So I'm going to suggest that we spend a couple of minutes at the end of each session doing a what worked and what didn't. And if there's something after the fact, after the meeting that you want to flag as I wish we'd done it differently, feel free to reach out. It's an iterative process, and we will find opportunities to do recap of the work we do. I know coming off of the environmental discussion last month, a number of people said you wanted to have additional conversation about them. There is a survey in the process that won't be finished until just before our January meeting. So there's not time to process the results and use it in January. So I'm going to ask you to think about the possibility of second meeting event, where we could spend some time going over what we did in November, in December, and January, revisiting and having more time to talk in depth about what we've come up with. And I'll reach out to you, staff will reach out to you after that, see if that is something that you're comfortable with. But I think it's time that would be well spent, so that we don't just do a kind of a not superficial, but shorter than we'd like discussion of really good. So we won't be able to talk about the environmental work we did last month until after the community survey comes back, which means that's February discussion. And we already have a topic. So I'm hoping we can do that in the second half. I also wanted to be able to have good connections between members of the committee and a way to connect with one another. So I am asking us informally to create an email contact, name, phone number, and email that we can use to reach out to each other, not to have meetings, but to ask questions and to get clarification or to suggest ideas.
Read Sparkle.
Yeah, and Margaret. Yeah. I started it. I'm going to pass this around, and I'm going to tell you that I created. We did the 2040 plan. Okay. The county was able to give us 2040 emails. For some reason, they can't do that anymore. But I created one for myself to separate this email from the rest of the stuff they get. You know, thousands. Would you buy this? Do you need help with that email? And what I did, and I'm going to make this my public email, if anybody wants to reach out to me, was make it region9SAC@gmail.com. We do the same thing. Name region9SAC. We can make that a public address for anybody who is willing to share it with the community, so people can reach out. Okay. Put your own your current email on there. This is just for the committee. But if you're going to add a new one, let me know. We'll make that the official email. Use it.
So what email do you want to use?
What you have right now. Okay. And when you create a new one, send it to me and I'll update it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 people we don't have bios for, and we don't have ethics statements for. If you're one of those people, please get it in. I don't think anybody here hasn't done that. We need that information. And I have a question about technology. We're going to use a lot of Drive in this process to share documents. Is there anybody who doesn't know how to use it? Or who would like a reference course?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll work out whether we do that as a video or a Zoom call. But it's an easy way to share documents. And we can share large documents, so. Eric, if you'll set that up. PK. At the last meeting, we all listened to each other's stomachs rumbling, 8:30 at night. We didn't know there was anything. So would you like to tell us what you and the dreamed up?
Oh.
And
The fellow who was sitting there that insisted that we have the Hawaiian visa. You got somebody else?
Probably gonna come.
Not you. Not me. I'm hoping.
It's coming in 6:30, 6:45.
Thank you.
You're well.
And are we asking people to chip in?
Well, next time somebody can come up and.
See you. So before we get started, we have a number of guests with us. We have Bill Gibbons, who's the current president of the West River Improvement Committee. And we have Buzz Winchester, who's the incoming president, who wanted to welcome us again. Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Kate's giving me a minute and a half, so don't be disappointed when I start off by saying, you don't need to. I was looking at American, he said, the American has 18th century version of 19th century podcast. And basically, he said America is unique, that it tries to solve this problem collectively. And it also wants to give, and Americans tend to form groups that get individuals not to focus entirely on their own little specific problems, but to focus collectively. And this group is a good example of that. And Galesville is a good example. We have three very vibrant community associations. One would help restore the field, the hot spots field, and the school. Growth the local. We have a heritage society that's restored their own building, and they're operating a tour, and they really focus on the heritage of Galesville. And then we have ours, Western Improvement Association, that's the general organization for the community. And this hall is a good example of collective action because 15 years ago, it was falling apart. It was falling down. Community got together. Personally, even today, I was painting the ceiling without a big strap. I never even attempt today. But the thing is, it was that kind of spirit that we had. So if you want to know what Galesville is, it's exactly that. We tend to solve our problems. If we front and come up, we'll work together with like this. Welcome to Galesville. And I hope you come and enjoy our two wonderful restaurants and walk our village wherever you want. And it's just a wonderful place. And if you want everyone on the call me to find out what the sense of the community is, I will make sure I contact the rest of the community in our meetings and things like that.
Okay. So before we get into the meeting tonight, which is about schools and economic development, redevelopment, please turn your phones.
Before we get too far, we do need to approve the agenda and the previous meeting.
Can you motion? Okay,
I can't make it.
then you motioned and I said.
Are there any changes? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no.
So, Kate took most of my way to make my job a little bit easier. So we're going to just really quick, please do that as quick as you can. If you have your own, everyone here has, thank you for that. But the only thing I would give a word of caution for the emails is, again, please be mindful of open meetings act. If there are 8 people or more on the email chain, it could constitute a meeting, and that would
require notice to full thing. So just please be mindful of that moving forward. We don't want anybody to be able to use that as a point against the region plan process. You guys are working very hard, you guys are working very hard at this. Because I mean, it takes a lot of time, I mean, getting the north plan, and you don't want to make sure all are done. So please be mindful and please be cautious of any communication outside of this. I'd also highly encourage, anytime you get any personal email or an SAC email that you guys create, also give them the region 9 at aacounty.org email. That way, they're recorded through a staff is working on, and we can make sure that's recorded moving forward as well. So you can CC us, you can CC you, whatever they're comfortable with, whatever you guys want to do. I would just please encourage that as well. There is one other thing, just a reminder, the hub site, the region at aacounty.org/region9 has a lot of good information, a lot of good data. So if you have any questions in your head, as you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to know what's the population of region 9, at 3 in the morning, go to the hub site, check it out, it's there for you. And we kind of try to update that with different information, meeting materials, agendas, and other publications on there as well. Their county, usually typically county produced, with a lot of good stuff there for your reference in the future. There. So as before we get to meet the topic tonight, just really quick overview of the process once again. So far, we as mentioned, we had a vision questionnaire closed on November 1st. We are currently working on creating the summary. I was hoping to have that to you guys for this meeting, time to review, but it didn't work out that way. We will give it to you as soon as we finish it up. It's a summary of the comments we've heard and what we've seen from the public point of view regarding the vision statement. We'll talk a little bit more about the vision region 9 a little bit later tonight potentially, but we will give time to it where you all can discuss and provide on the vision region 9 or vision statement. We also have currently, as Kate mentioned, a public review of the strategy for the natural environment or online through, I think, January 2nd. So please encourage us in that. We have some flyers that we passing that around, get email to you all to spread the word. I know some of you guys have already done the email blasts, and we appreciate that. We have seen some response because of that, so thank you. Thank you all for the people who attended our drop-in session at the library last week. We had 6 SAC members. That's terrific. I really appreciate that. So feel free to swing by anytime we have a drop-in session. We'll have one coming up soon, and we'll have that information at the end of the meeting tonight. We're going to create a document, a summary of that to show everything there with you guys that Kate mentioned. That it closes January 2nd, so we're not going to give you a day to review it. We're going to give you more time to that because we'll be fine. So again, hopefully have that conversation in February. One other thing I would like to point out: owner application for zoning change is extended. We are now accepting the application through December 15th. Feel free to spread the word on that. Let people know they still have the opportunity. It did not close, and we're continuing to move forward with that.
Is there some reason why it was extended?
I think there was just conversations with the different groups, different organizations, how they felt they need a little bit of extra.
Let me just, I figured out a few things about Facebook. And so I tonight posted the December 15th date change to 4 or 5 Facebook pages, including I got Edgewater, so it gets approved, Beverly, a couple of mayor. If anyone has a Facebook page in your community, and grant me access, I'm very happy to put our stuff on all of our Facebook pages, if that would be useful in your community.
It'd be great.
It's just another 3 or 4 groups that access. I'm very happy to do that.
Thanks, Matt. And we are sending our newsletter as well as the county exec. It is I think a weekly newsletter is not as well. So anything you guys can do would be very helpful. Thank you. So tonight, we're gonna be focused on the economic development of public schools. Just kind of a refresher, here's the 7 big topics that we'll be discussing throughout the next, several months. Tonight, again, economic development in public schools. We're creating a plan, right? It's staff and SAC working together to create a document that captures everything that we discussed. So anytime you guys are saying something, oh, this is a great idea, or we should do this, we should do that. What about this? Or that doesn't work so well. We don't want any more of that. We're listening. We have recordings, we have notes taken, staff is listening in the background. We're making sure we're doing our best to hear everything you're saying, as well as what we're going to public, right? There's a lot of pieces in this, because as I mentioned in the first meeting, it's a plan for everyone. So we're really making sure that everything that is presented to us is being recorded, which is important. Going back to the email thing, I would again recommend everybody, every member of the public, if they have a really important, passionate comment they want to share, please have them send it to us as well as you, just so we can make sure it's right. And then we're going to work all the data we get, all the thoughts, the ideas, and really massage the final plan, where you guys are going to be able to take a look and see if we hit target or optimal. So just, I just really want to emphasize that everything you guys do in these meetings, everything you guys do on the homework, it really does play a very important and purposeful role for the creation and the end product of Region 9. Yeah.
Just on the background material that we get, if there's certain information in there that we want included in the final plan, do we repeat that as a comment, or?
Do you have an example or anything?
Well, it had some information in the healthy economy document about supporting cost store or supporting growth in Gainesville, but at a certain scale, or those types of things.
Yeah, so the briefing documents is a really good foundation for conversation. And that the final plan will reflect a lot of the briefing documents. And a lot of the information in the briefing document will be reflected in the final plan. We're just kind of use this a little bit more, get a little bit more out to see if we can go the next step and see what we can extract from the SAC and the results.
Okay.
And if I can add to Mike's Stringer, planning and zoning. So yeah, in briefing documents, there's factual data and information on county programs and policies, as well as you mentioned, like potential recommendations for the group to consider. So yeah, as we're having our discussion tonight, we're going to be talking about those same topics. And if those ideas resonate with you, we can talk more about them. And yeah, if they align with the group, then they get into the plan.
Any other questions at this point? Really quick, so I know there were a couple of questions from other entities, I think a member or two here. This may be a little blurry here right now, but I promise you this is going to go online. It's going to be much easier to see. This is just the county organization chart, county board chart, kind of showing the breakdown of the county, right? Like, as we showed last meeting, there was the gear picture where every big plan works together to help the function of government. These are the people that do it, right? These are the people that are either the voters help elect in, and the different breakdown of different departments kind of show how everything operates, everything runs. So if you're interested, you can take a better look at this. This post is likely tomorrow, and take a better look at that. And again, here is the Office of Planning and Zoning Board chart, kind of just breaks down the different easy from cultural resources, the long range, all that kind of good stuff. So if you ever have any questions about kind of where what the pecking order is, these are good charts to kind of take a look at. So with that, we're going to get ready to start the public schools this discussion and presentation. Really quick, right at the beginning, in your briefing document, we talked a little bit about adequate level facilities and APF testing. So I won't go too much into detail, but there are a few things I'd like to add that the APF standards direct growth towards schools is or will exist. Certain developments, math path testing to ensure there are adequate school capacity prior to approval. The OPZ reports the number of dwelling unit type and developments to the Board of Education, generates utilization charts, projected enrollment, to show whether there are vacant student seats, or whether a school will be at or over capacity. This helps determine schools and feeder districts that are open or closed. The latter of which can place the proposed development in that feeder district on hold for, from approval for up to 6 years. Some projects meeting certain criteria outlined in Article 17 of the code are not subject to the school APM. So if you look at Article 17, Title 5 of the code, that's where all those exemptions are located. So if there's no question about that, I can pass it over to kind of just see what it is.
Do we have data on where region line is relative to capacity?
I can certainly provide it. We published a master plan every year. And basically lines up the next 10 years where we think
Yeah.
the enrollment effect. So that's online. I can give the link to my enrollment.
Absolutely.
So Kyle, director of facilities and Arundel County Public School. Which slide that we have, one to talk about redistricting. So on November 15th, we were able to pass the first phase of redistricting, phase 1. So those are the schools located on the left side of the screen. Phase 2 will be implemented in the 26th, 27th school. I will involve this district down here. So we're going to get started with an RFP later this year, and then we're going to hire a consultant again. So there could not be the same one that we hired the first round, and they'll help kind of establish some recommendations, and then the public will have an opportunity to voice their opinion, collect some feedback, and then help shape the next round of redistricting reports.
So is this redistricting in North County already taking place?
The redistricting in North County, the blue area there has already taken place. The primary reason for that to take place first was the opening of Old Middle West High School and West County Elementary School, 2 brand new schools that needed a feeder system developed so that we could fill those schools up.
So I have one other question. When we talk about seats, what's a seat? Is that like I've got 10 classrooms or over 30 kids?
So, see, the determination is based off of HOMAR regulations. So the state of Maryland gives us these rules that we apply to each and every school. Depending on what grade level it is, it determines what a classroom is rated. For example, an elementary school classroom is rated for 23 kids in their classroom. Then you move to the high school level, and it's 21.25 kids per classroom. And then each different classroom has different values in the number of seats. And that's really how we determine SRC state rated capacities, and those ultimately get approved by the interagency commission on school construction. So they're the arbiter that can say yes, no, make this adjustment. So just to go into a little bit more detail on phase 1. So we were able to get all the schools in the phase 1 area under capacity as well as districting lines go. Without redistricting, we would have had 13 schools overutilized. So we were able to balance the system using the existing fees that were in there, adjusting the boundary line. Kind of the timeline that we're looking at right now. So we did a legacy student, which would be upcoming seniors. If we could stay at a current school or sign rather than be rezoned to a new place. All other students will be rezoned based on the map. The Board of Education this month is going to start in January. It's going to be focusing on renaming the student school. So that we get shortlisted for names for each of those schools, and they'll be voting on the final name for each one of those. Between February and July of this year, we'll be running bus routes through our GIS system. So we're going to be taking all the information that we students, rerunning those bus routes to align with the new boundaries. And then every year we'll educational facility master plans that will be updated in July. And then redistricting will take place for next school year.
So it's in part of the equation is. For example, no child would have a bus ride longer than 2 hours. That now, whatever the metric is, but you wouldn't see the point get way down here, way up there.
Yeah, the whole goal or purpose, one of the metrics that we're looking at is to shorten the distance as much as possible. Granted, when you're balancing schools, you're gonna have to pull various different schools that may or may not be close to one next, but just balance it out. So the give and take is the balance among multiple metrics. So, phase two, also known as the Southern Redistricting Schedule, is going to follow a similar schedule to phase one. So February 25, we would release the web tool that will provide a couple options or scenarios that the public can consider opinion on, give us feedback and help shape the next redistricting plan. Then the superintendent will provide his recommendation in the summertime. The board, we go through public briefings and hearings, and then ultimately adopt and by November for implementation next school year. A little bit about our capital budget. So this year we're asking for $234 million. That's broken up into two main chunks. $172 million is for major capital projects. That's for large scale placement renovation of the school position. Then we have recurring projects at $62 million. That's for smaller systemic renovation, HVAC projects, roofing projects that we do throughout the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
How, upgraded is the HVAC system yet as a result of this COVID?
So we spent a lot of the money that we got from COVID on preventative maintenance. So historically, we didn't do a great job of preventative maintenance. Get the ESSER funds allowed us to go out, each individual school, catalog all the equipment, do PM maintenance. We've seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of work orders that we're getting through the system, just because we're able to maintain it. You can think about it as having your HVAC tech within your house for a tune-up, winter tune-up. That's really what we're doing, checking belts, get the filters done, and doing all that.
And in general, would you say that the HVAC systems in the school are really good? Or better than really good, or need improvement?
Need some love. So we have a maintenance backlog, a comprehensive maintenance plan that we put out every single year. It's around $600 million of work that needs to be done in the school. About 55% of that is split between HVAC projects or roofing projects. So there are main items that need to be addressed in the system.
How much did that get done?
About $62 million that maintenance.
So the question is,
Yeah, Anthony, if, any question, if you want, I mean, Mike can answer as well. But, so Anthony's question was, what was this year's budget amount of that, how much was COVID, how much was?
This year's budget was around $200 million. The capital budget did not include any COVID money in it. Certain funds were really allocated to operating fund. And in total, we got around $20 million, and that's spread over 3 years to do all the COVID funding for HVAC.
And it's run out now.
We have until December of next year to spend all the money, but it's been allocated.
Anthony wanted the pizza.
One of the new programs that we're introducing this year is a request for a planning project plan. That's really going to help us kick off the next what we've historically called the MVP study, but it's really a strategic long range plan. It's really going to set us out for the next 10 years as far as what our capital program looks like, where the renovations, where the replacement buildings are going to be, and how we can better become more of a sustainable program within the agency budget process. It'll be a revolving fund, so that $300,000 request will go into helping us also do feasibility studies after we get the master plan done. That will ultimately, make us less budget restricted as far as the timeline goes. Historically, we haven't got money to apply to the feasibility study, which puts us about 4 months behind schedule when we start construction. We want to stay out of the mud, we want to stay out of the cold. So that 4 months lead time really. And with that, any questions?
Just one question for clarification. In the briefing document we got, we saw the vacancies over the last year or 2 years. If you could just explain that a bit more. So one line has over 16,000 seats were vacant in 2022, but there was no why this is happening. And is the redistricting a fix or a solution for those vacancies?
Depending on where the growth areas in the county, some seats exist, in areas that we don't have a lot of growth, for example, other middle school, right? That's around 60% capacity as far as enrollment goes. There's really not enough middle school need down here to fill that building up. Those seats will ultimately have to either be utilized for some other purpose. Blueprint, we're looking at how pre-K fits into certain buildings that we have existing space that we can utilize and how, rather than build out new buildings, add additional square footage, which ultimately adds to the cost of maintaining the system. We need to better utilize the schools that we have, and that's really what we just.
If I can add to that too, one finger, planning zoning, there's this dance between growth management in the county and school capacity. So that there have been some schools that have, as you mentioned, have low enrollment over time compared to their state rate capacity. But we're not going to like the growth there. There's been other areas, so construction of new schools, and then redistricting help balance that out. For example, South River High School was up near capacity. They built a Crofton High School, pulled a lot of students from South River. And I did review some of the numbers on capacity to get back to that question. South River High School is currently at about 74% of the state rated capacity, and Southern High School at about 80%. Central Middle is at about 93%, and Southern is about 54%. Now within those, so kind of the middle school and high school levels in this area is Region 9, we have pretty sufficient capacity projected to stay. But of course, those numbers will change with redistricting. At some of the elementary schools, is where we start to see some pinch points, like the Davidsonville Elementary School, that about 98%. And it's projected to get close to 100 the next 4 years. So again, redistricting will look around at those elementary school lines, see if there's some adjustment to be made, or if there's some capacity expansion to be done at the school in physical construction.
Does faculty and administration move with redistricting?
Yeah, we like to keep the staffing ratios fairly consistent.
And is that mandatory? Does someone say you are now going to this school?
The way that the job posting gets put out there, they have an opportunity to apply for it. If a school does not need the teachers that they have, and the enrollment has to drop, they either get an opportunity to move to another school, or we'll find a communication forms.
Okay.
Any communication on your growth concerns and taking a lot of more children being born, like we see that in the daycare system. I was wondering if you guys had yet any idea of what that was going to look like for the school system, because
yeah, so we get all of our planning numbers from Maryland Department of Planning. They give us sort of great information on an annualized basis. That's really how we gauge what that kindergarten population is going to be when it comes in. We also have some leading indicators now that we're looking at as far as pre-K numbers. That's just over the past couple of years, we've had fairly consistent pre-K numbers as far as the percentage of population of the kindergarten class that's coming in. So we're a little bit better able to predict that. This year was a little bit of an anomaly. The children did not show up in the numbers that we thought they would. So the birth rates of the county indicated that we'd have a higher number. We actually saw an actual enrollment lower.
Is there a
Why is
why?
that?
For children, still trying to figure that out. It's a balance, what we've seen in the other grade levels. It's either their homeschooling is a large portion of it. or that they're attending private school. So the kids are there, they're
It's
just
not in the public school.
not in the public schools.
So do you have, sustainability, goals within your construction process, then, and kind of like three-part question, sustainability goals? Can you put solar on the roofs of the school? And do you have health, certification for the school, kind of like, the healthy building type stuff? Is there a health component to your, metrics?
So one of our big drivers is replacement of buildings. But in order to be more sustainable, we really need to replace the buildings to get to that higher level. All of our new buildings that are replaced need LEED silver. So they're all LEED silver buildings. Over the past 2 years, all the new buildings that have been open are solar ready on the roof. We're looking at using PPAs, power purchase agreement, for solar power, rather than owning the solar panels ourselves, having to maintain those, having to hire electricians that are trained in that area. We'd like to get a group that owns and operates those for the duration of the contract. We've been successful with that with a solar array that we have at Fort Smallwood facility for my office. And then we also have another solar array that we're partnered with at the old Annapolis City Dump. As far as, what was the third part?
Well, I guess, so you can put solar on the roof, but
Yeah.
you do with third party.
Yeah, so,
PDOs or.
yeah, PBAs, all of our roofs right now have been structurally designed to handle ballot solar arrays on the roof,
On the new building.
on the new buildings. So we've upgraded the steel, we've made sure that the roofing is in compliance. Over the next 2 years, our warranty is gonna run out as far as the contractor's installation. We usually have a 20-year warranty on the roof itself. But then we're gonna be looking at hiring a PPA firm, getting under contract so that we can start putting panels in the roof.
And any thoughts about retrofitting existing schools?
It gets a little bit challenging because building codes have changed over the course of the year. There was a couple of years ago where we had a large amount of snow. One of our roofs collapsed. And adding a balanced system on a roof adds additional weight. The wind loading that was originally designed in some of these buildings was never contemplated what the codes are now. Retrofitting is a little bit tricky.
So that would be in
That would be not a no, but it's challenging. It gets.
Yeah, the last part was, as far as the health of the building, the healthy building, as far as the folks that are in the buildings, and what are the forward thinking type of things that we can do to make them as healthy as possible, because people spend a lot of time in them.
Sure.
And one thing that I have heard and seen a little bit on is the amount of air that's moving through during the, of course, now, through HVAC type of things, 5 turnover versus a 2 turnover type of, those type of things. Is that something that is being thought about?
Yeah, it's amazing how far building codes and ASHRAE design standards have changed over since COVID. They've dramatically changed in what we have to do. LEED silver puts a number of design components into our buildings. We would go, or it goes above and beyond the building code itself right now. So air changes, the sophistication of the system, the sensors in the room, all indicate how much CO2 is being put out. We have demand and response systems. The amount of building controls that we have to manage has changed dramatically from the pneumatic systems of the old HVAC systems to now everything electronic. We can literally control every building from my office.
Find LEED silver.
It's U.S. Green Building Council. So it's a third-party organization that sets standards. They take your design, they review it, make sure that you're getting points. Essentially, so how many points can you get? And then once you get so many points, you get categorized and get silver. The state of Maryland requires all replacing buildings, school buildings to be built.
In your comment about running all the buildings from your office, do you have cybersecurity built into
Absolutely.
your system?
Yeah, the security that we run, we get notifications every day.
You mentioned that if a school is closed, there's a 6-year construction goal. What happens in the 7th year?
I'll let, yeah, so the IPF law was updated last year, right? And part of that is that something those 6 years and then after your own lot to move forward with that particular trial.
And then you may all know this, I am unaware. The Southern feeder system, not all the schools have pre-K programs yet. They have the carry reading pre-K. Are there plans for Deal and Tracy's to get pre-K expansions, or will they continue with carry reading?
Deal has existing phase, the need needs to exist, so we're looking at waitlist students that were waitlisted right now, 26 is the school year, that 4-year-old. Well, if you want to join pre-K at 4 years old in 2026, we're gonna have to find a seat for you. Right now, we're examining the waitlist and determining where the need is, where we need to place these programs. Basically, a little bit more capacity.
Yeah.
So hopefully redistricting will help realign it.
I was recently, when I recently in Harford County, I'm looking at their high school system, and it's kind of hand in hand with economic development. They have been very aggressive when redoing their schools and looking at, build out for like their, some of their secondary programs. So they have a very like, they build out barns and like they have special areas for crops and storage of animals because they have a very big agricultural presence. And so they really have invested a lot of capital in making sure that they have this agricultural program, make sure that their agricultural program, I mean, it's a large, there's a lot of shade because they're and their students getting into the top agricultural colleges and able to come back. And I was wondering if you guys have any thoughts, if you guys are looking at investing in capital and like investing in that human capital, investing in capital for both the agricultural program and maybe also the marine trade. That we can really making all the traditional school route.
So each time we do like kind of a renovation school project, we do a program itself called our educational stuff that really programs spaces that we want in the new building based on the programs that either we want to add to the school or that are currently existing. I know it's up there, you have the case program. And you know, if MGT study or the strategic master plan coming up, programs that are top bullets for replacement, that would definitely be something that we would work with the faculty, the instructional staff at the central office to make sure that we're programming the correct place.
I just work like an ROTC program, just to give you an example, as an app. Completely separate, because students would attend some normal classes with their other college students, but most of our other classes were completely geared towards their choice in the agriculture.
And we did something similar at Mead High School, so we're completing that project. We have an ROTC lab. We also had a cybersecurity lab that was donated tons of material from the NSA. So we want to gear our studies to what programs are in those buildings so that the students have the best opportunity.
Just following up, but I'm a little stuck on the capacity and the reduction in capacity. You mentioned a school at 50% at this point. Has that been a gradual reduction? And again, are we doing any studies to understand why? And how do we stop that bleed from happening? Or how do we attract folks back to the schools?
South County, Southern High School cluster is very stable. Southern Middle School that we mentioned has been very stable at that 55–60% capacity level in that building. It has not been a gradual bleed off in that school. It's just access capacity in that building itself. Other buildings, We're seeing a lot of growth in the north and west area, which is where we want the growth. And that's really the phase one redistricting where we wanted to balance that. Schools had excess capacity because they did have a little bit of a bleed down where other schools had a lot of students enrolling, and we needed to reallocate those.
That adds to the discussion and the historic, I went to Southern and in the nineties, dating myself in middle school, and my 8th grade year, Southern middle school was overcrowded, and 8th grade was at the high school. So I think that was around the time when obviously Southern
We
got
have,
bigger and capacity, but it was overcrowded.
we put an addition on that school, time addition for my time, but we also had 6 portables at one time out from them.
So we're okay with the 50% capacity. I'm just trying to understand.
No, I'm not okay with it. My ideal number is 60 is the threshold where state funding kicks in.
Okay.
Below 60% capacity, I'm not gonna get state funding.
That's
any of those sector preservation projects. So I want to hit like 60.
Okay, thank you.
Historically, talking about multi-purposing these buildings, Southern High School was in the backwoods site for hurricanes. And obviously we're in a very low lying sensitive area. And then they discontinued it because they didn't have the right generators, assuming power outage or something. When you build schools or retrofit schools, do you think about using them as emergency shelter places? Because to tell people down here who often have animals, that they have to have animals, you're not gonna get that far over there, and you have to be able to go back and take care of them. You guys think about that at all? When you
Yes, every time that we do a replacement school, we coordinate with the Office of Emergency Management to determine whether that should be a shelter. So the new high school, Old Mill West is gonna be a shelter. Old Mill High School will be a shelter. Northeast is a shelter right now, Spring Park is a shelter. And then if we would ever renovate or replace the building in this area, I'm sure Office of Emergency Management will say yes.
Well, we do need down here, and because of the kind of people that live down here, we can bring our own generators. I bring my dog, he brings his dog. For a reason, I mean, I'm not a super familiar with horror stories. Because there are reasons why we don't get like flyers and schools over here haven't been considered for retrofitting or for building construction.
No, I mean, I think the biggest driver of our 10-year plan over the past 10 years, at least, has been that strategic long-range study. This time we're going to be looking at several other components that are more aligned with the blueprint or the state wants to go as far as education. So we're looking at free and reduced lunches, English language learners, special education students. Those are going to get a certain weight, and we're also looking at sustainability. How many EUIs, energy use intensity, per kilowatt? How many kilowatts am I using in a building? I also have a strong push to get rid of the number 2 fueled schools. I'm not a big fan of underground storage tanks. So they take a tremendous amount of energy to maintain. They take a lot of resources on our part to do all the testing and verifications with MDE. So being able to look at those buildings and somehow trying to retrofit those is something that we're looking at. And then we also have to look at the aging condition of our building. So our average age of our building is around 30 years. At that point, you're doing some kind of major retrofit. So our buildings are a little over 30 years. Our buildings are younger than 30 years. So it's really going to be those higher end number of buildings that are going to be looking at.
So to stay on track of time,
I just real quick, I'm just curious, do you, because the buildings are average 30 years old, things change over time, do you do any testing on a regular basis for like mold and radon that could be creeping into these buildings? That's number one question. Number two is, with regard to the food that goes into the school, that we're feeding the kids, because that's probably, the quality of that, I remember eating the food, it was okay, but it was the health of it is what I'm really focused on. How healthy is the food? Food is high quality, and I know that's called, there's cost to it. But, that's a kind of important deal.
I could probably answer better the environmental. aspect.
Okay.
Food service.
Okay.
I keep three folks in my office, they're entirely focused on asbestos, lead and water, mold and air quality. So they go out, they test schools when we have an issue, we do constant monitoring for mold. Early summer when we're unoccupied, so we do weekly trips around the building, they have to complete a form so that they send it into us. We track down if they did not complete the form, so that we go out to the school and check everything. We're constantly on the lookout for leaks, making sure that our drains are cleared on the roof. So we do take that very seriously.
Hey, is that information available if folks wanted to go online and view that? Like, oh, there's mold, or we detected the mold here, everything's good.
We don't post that online. The lead and water testing is online, so that's available. The reaction or the reactive maintenance towards asbestos is and mold problems are really done on a one by one or case by case.
To your point, Shady Southern Elementary has a pretty poor reputation of mold in that school. And it's not new news.
Mhm.
It's pre-COVID.
All right, keep it moving on. If you guys have any additional questions, Kyle, feel free to send them to staff. We'll compile the questions, put it in one big batch. You can answer them, do some homework and send it back.
And I could see the connection between schools and economic development, this piece about, getting local foods into the school.
Yeah.
I thought with Professor Rowe about them. I'm sure it's been discussed a lot in the county. I don't have details on that either, but we can follow up and get back to the group about that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And then just a friendly reminder for everybody in the room, these things are designed for the SAC discussion. If any members of the public want to have questions, feel free to email that, which will help me out there as well. So, there will be public opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. Before we introduce our next presenter, let's go over a couple of slides about economic development. Really briefly, there's a few things we as staff have heard while being out in the field, talking to people. But one big thing we hear a lot of is, the fishing, maritime, and agriculture industries are very important to region, right? It's something that the people really, really appreciate, really enjoy, and really understand the importance of it. You can't do that in like a downtown DC, right? It's something that is very unique to Region 9 and the rural culture, the rural development patterns and the environmental action really help kind of align with that mindset. Speaking of rural development patterns, it does provide some challenges for access to jobs and other services. We've heard that multiple times. Additionally, rising cost of housing and limited housing options make it challenging for the young adults. I've heard a lot of people talk about where are their children going to come back? How are they going to be able to afford a home when they come back here? So that's a concern we hear a lot. Since we're in Rome, we don't talk about Rome, right? Halesville. One thing we hear a lot about is the concern about vacant storefronts, Edgewater, Halesville, and other areas of the region. But how can we make those? How can we re-energize this region, right? And how can we do so at a small neighborhood compatible kind of scale too? Scale is very important, and we can talk about that more later tonight. But the word development and redevelopment, I know it's a scary word and it's a horrible word sometimes, but it's not all bad. It's really talking about a vision, and that's what we're here to do tonight. We're talking about the vision of how we see different areas of the region. And then finally, the access to transportation, childcare, and rising cost of housing. It's very all interconnected, and it impacts low-income housing. There's a lot of people that have different challenges on a day-to-day basis. So how are these aspects that are very important to the day-to-day life? How are they affecting everybody, right? And on that note, if you take a look at this, I know it's kind of blurry here, but again, this will be all online. This is also in the Poverty Amidst Plenty document that's on the Google Drive. You can kind of see two maps that break down two very important aspects of equity in the region plan. And one thing we mentioned from the very beginning of the region plan process is equity and being equitable. So here you can kind of see a breakdown of the housing income, I think by census block, if I'm correct. And then also the percent white for census block for region 9. Again, these are in the poverty index 20. I would recommend taking a look at it if you haven't done so already. And just for a quick broad statement, the darker shades of green are higher, right? So on the income, the darker shade is higher income, and on the map on the right, darker shade is more white percent poverty. So with that, I will introduce our next speaker, Jonathan Boniface. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Jonathan, I hope you're gonna dig into that graph. Because,
That wasn't my.
oh, that's not here, okay. Yes.
You want to? Sure. All right.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Jonathan Boniface. I'm with the Analytical Economic Development Corporation. We are the quasi-government agency, the economic development arm of the county. Well, I'm the research director of research and program development for AEDC, and I'm here tonight just present some of the data facts about your region. First, I'm going to start with commuter flows, and that's just the inflow and outflow of people here in the county, or I'm sorry, in your region 9. If you look up here at this map, kind of shows you the dark green arrow. It's the 4,049 people that are commuting into your region, but live outside of the region. So those are the people that come here to work and have their primary jobs here, not part-time jobs, but they're full-time. We have 1,237 workers that both live and work in region. So they might not be, or they're your locals. And then you have 11,895 workers in region 9, people that live in region 9 that actually work outside of region 9. So they'd be commuting to different places.
Yeah, are you gonna have the breakdown of jobs?
Yeah, let me get through these slides real quick. I'll show you we are going to break down some of these. And we have a total of 5,286 that are employed in region 9, and then we have a total of 13,132 residents of region 9 that are employed throughout any region. Next slide. So where do region 9 residents commute to? Well, 10.3%, it's the highest percentage, is right up to Roll. 6.9% to Washington, DC, 6.3% to City of Annapolis, and 4.9% to Baltimore City. So you actually have more in this area, in this region, that commute to DC than you do to Baltimore.
Is that DC proper or is it,
Washington, DC.
or is it the region?
It's the actual district. So your residents' workforce by earnings of the 13,132 residents employed in primary jobs in region 9, 15.5% earn $1,250 per month or less. 18.8% earn $1,251 to $3,331, and 65.7% earn more than $3,333 per month. Now, all this data comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. It's a little dated. It's 2020 data, but it's data that can be drilled down to a specific area, such as region.
So
And,
Jonathan, that's 35% are earning 36,000 a year, or 9,000 a year or less.
Month.
month.
3,333 per month.
Yeah, so times
Yeah.
12
Well,
is about 40,000 a year.
yeah, so the vast majority,
So a third or roughly a third of our resident district region 9 residents
are making
earning
less,
40,000.
yes. What, I'm sorry,
So like, the people that are probably making 40,000,
it could be based on the type of employment. Last night we were up in Region 3, and they had, their numbers were far more to the lower income scale. And it's because they have a lot of retail there, and the hospital and different areas around there. So it's really what kind of businesses and what kind of work is being done.
Full-time jobs or these?
Yeah.
Jobs, what are they?
Well, these are all primary jobs. So, yeah, pretty much adult house or adult jobs. A lot of the kids are working part-time jobs. But it's not
individual.
This is individual.
But it's just individuals, whoever has a job that does 40 hours, or is it?
Or it's considered full-time. And it's all done through the US Census Bureau and their surveys. Where are the concentrated jobs concentrated in Region 9? Edgewater is by far, where we see the most. It's kind of hard to see on this map here, but the real darker colors are where most of the jobs are. And we see that at South River Colony, where you have a lot of retail, Village of Lee Air Park, you have a lot of retail up there as well. Mayo, the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, you have a lot. I think there's over 100 jobs there. There's not, Region 9 doesn't have a lot of jobs compared to the rest of the county because of the rural area. So what's considered a lot down here is not considered a lot. But you also have Beagle, JD side, no place to go to shop, and the different businesses around there.
And no large major employers.
Not in the same scale.
Giants is the biggest employer in this part of the county.
Giant is one of them. Now, where do Region 9 workers commute from? Well, a lot of them are local. You see the vast majority, Mayo, 6.5%, Edgewater, Yale, City of Annapolis, Katy side. You just don't get a lot coming from outside of Anne Arundel County into here. But we do see 2% from Baltimore City, but pretty much everything else is pretty close by.
It says, 64% all other location.
That's individuals from different areas. They're not percentage wise.
Okay.
So it could be, Citizen Tracy Landing, could be somebody that's in, Friendship. I mean, it could be, somebody out in Lothian, Harwood, all different areas, but not large. And the job growth of the top industry sector, right here, these are the top industry sectors, ranked here in Region 9, accommodation and food services, that's your hotel, that's also your restaurant. And if you look at the 10-year trend on that, from 2011 to 2020, it increased a total of 19%. And if you look, it's the top line here, it did go up, and then after about 2017, it started to go back. Retail trades increased by 9% over that 10-year period. Construction has increased by 28%. Healthcare and social assistance increased by 94%. And I believe that's mainly due to urgent care opening down in this area and the different doctor's offices. And then, other services is increased by, 3%.
Any indication as to why that, accommodation and food services have that decreased in 2017?
I don't know, I don't know exactly why for this particular region it went down.
Okay.
It could be, I mean, a lot of it with COVID, a lot of the employers had trouble.
COVID hasn't happened yet, before COVID.
Well, yeah, that is true.
That always has lines, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, these are pretty low total numbers, so with the percentage, when it goes down.
Long circle closed and then reopened in February, and then we had first day closed and then reopened in San and I don't think they were being open for me. We had a change over Pirate Cove and there were a couple other things for playground. We had a lot of things there, and then I mean, some people were doing their job.
And did we have was there a grocery store down here? Or Edgewater?
Maybe it was not an area that closed and then reopened.
It's staggered rates.
How long you go to Kmart and everyone?
And
This is the team.
you also lost up the tours in the soccer shopping center for quite a while. The people are down at the school.
And just full disclosure, I started my mid 2019, I started in economic development. So I don't know some of the history, our chief operating officer, Michael and here tonight, and he can probably the question, he's been there far longer. Now, looking at the demographics for Region 9, we see that of the jobs here, almost 50% are held by women, 44.6% are held by workers in that prime age of 30 to 54, and 39.7 are by workers making over 3,333 per month.
Of the workers, or the breakdown, you know, it's like you could be a worker, but also the owner of your company. There's a lot, there's like small, like, employer-owned businesses. Like, because we have the rate trades and like some of the, a lot of our small stores, it would take factoring.
I believe this is, this data, I believe is only, businesses with employees. So those, yeah, W-2s, so not the sole proprietors or,
Like, my husband, for example, works for, works for a company that is a marine trade company, and they do issue W-2s to get 3 other employees, but they also have a career, who's also probably showing the hiring. So, I'm just curious as to.
I can look,
Okay.
the Census Bureau has a lot of different programs. This is from the local employment. The LEHD origin designation statistics that they run. Now continuing with the demographics for the workers, the jobs in Region 9, 22.5% are held by non-white or 2 or more race workers. 8.3% are held by Hispanic or Latino workers, and 19.1% are held by workers with a bachelor's degree or advanced degree. Now, this large 1,606 here are workers age 29 or younger that they don't have the educational attainment is not gathered on this. Now, I'm going to get into commercial real estate. The commercial real estate market for district or Region 9 is by far the smallest in the county, or of the ones we've done so far. But 235 commercial properties, which compiled together, it's about 1.9 million square feet of property. This is all data based on CoStar. So these are the ones that CoStar has in their database. There might actually be more.
What is CoStar?
I'm sorry, CoStar is a real estate software program that, or company that feeds to a lot of realtors, a lot of commercial developers, a lot of different agencies to kind of look at and make policy. And also, information, like market information, market rates, vacancy rates. Who's in the property? It's a lot. Retail properties, they can look at that sector. You can see these gray marks over here, all the properties that are full or occupied and not vacant. If there were blue ones on there, those would be ones that have maybe have some vacant space available, maybe not the entire building, but this part. But we see retail properties is 165 identified, 1.3 million square feet. And they had 3.1% vacancy rate, which is actually better than the county's full, it's around 5.
Audrey, can you speak up a little bit?
It's hard. I mean, honestly, we'd like to see everything not be vacant for commercial products. So I mean, if you have, all full, and that's a good thing.
Okay, Jonathan,
Yes.
we're gonna talk about redevelopment here in a moment. I'm assuming at some point we get to that.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, our chief operator.
And the target of that is vacant commercial properties or underutilized commercial properties. 5% seems low. I mean, does that include vacant office space?
That's so we're right up now on retail. I'm gonna get to the next one is probably office. So office, you have 51 properties down here, 347,000 square feet, and an 8.1% vacancy rate, which 8.1% is not actually terrible compared to, for instance, Washington DC right now, they believe it's up 25% or more, sometimes even some of the cities are up near 40% because of remote workers. But an 8.1% is pretty much on par with the county. It's not a bad vacancy rate to have. There's office space out there.
We got one vacant one there, Shady Side, that's the Discovery Village, right? Is that what that is?
I couldn't tell you each one of those. I have to do this for the entire county.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of different properties.
That has sold.
Discovery?
Just a comment. I know you might not have this on the radio. For me, this. I'm trying to be diplomatic. It doesn't make sense because there's no comparison. So it would be great for future presentations if we have a comparison against the county, if we're discussing Region 9, for instance. Is there a comparison against a similar geographic location for us to understand, is it good, bad, or indifferent? Right now, it's just a bunch of numbers. Don't know if it's good, don't know if it's bad.
Some of the numbers are good. I mean, if your occupancy rates are low, that tells you something right there. If you have X amount of square footage based on the rest of the county, you're low.
But not everyone knows the comparison of the county though. You might be familiar with that. Some of us aren't.
Yeah, but even came in here this morning, if you have an unemployment rate or an occupancy rate that's sounds low to me, it sounds low, when you read other things in the, it's low. Low is low.
I mean, vacancy.
I mean, vacancy, or occupancy rate would be high, vacancy rate would be low. So if it's low, which is a good thing, right?
I think she's just asking for some context.
So all these slides that I showed you, the previous ones with the demographics and all, I've provided to OPC. Region stacked on a spreadsheet with the entire county as a whole. and then what percentage of the county you guys fall into. So I'm sure OPC could probably make that available.
That would be.
It's
very
in the
helpful.
Google Drive, I shared with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing is, we can't compare ourselves to the rest of the county.
And Region 9 is a drawn portion of the county. So it's not a formal, district as far as a congressional district or county council district.
Yeah.
This is really good. Over not getting go.
David, I have found looking at residential data, home sales and things like that, that we do have a little bit of a hard time in our area because it's a little more rural and we don't have as much data to draw from looking at our county as a whole or densely populated area. You really have to delve into the numbers of why, because one, like the Discovery Village is big and it's vacant, so it's gonna skew everything, but maybe all the other commercial properties are doing pretty well. So I think that the numbers are good to see generally, but I think if you really want to get good information about what they need, you have to go more detailed.
Yeah, and
A 94% increase means, did you start with
well,
1, you get
exactly.
2?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's-
And so in the brief paper that we gave you, we provided these summary snapshot on the real estate versus the 10-year trend for the area as well, and then more indicative, because they're presented up what we do. And so just to share those numbers too, for the retail, the 10-year was 4.9%. You're below the 10-year number. Close to 3%. And then for office, it was 10%, and now that's 8.1. So again, below 10-year, vacancy. And industrial was 3.4, now pulled in to basically it's just 0.
So that kind of context is really helpful. Because it gives us a sense of where it's going.
We've improved.
And whether it's compared to other parts of the county or compared to ourselves. Whenever we're getting numbers, if we could get that kind of context, it would help us a lot.
Good or bad?
Compared to what?
That helps understand.
There's probably 80 pages
Yeah.
of data that I sent over to OPC. And so it's a lot of data to go into. There's only so much you can do with a short presentation. So, so please forgive me for not having all that right here on. But industrial properties, you have 14 properties identified, 117,000 square feet, but it is a 0% vacancy rate, where, as Michael pointed out, the rest of the county is about 3.8.
Michael, or Eric, is this, does our region include Sands Road and then there's the southern part?
No.
Does not. So industrial being sand and gravel and all the rest of that down there, or is that region 8?
Right.
Okay.
Everything's in left of Route 2 or east of Route 2, I think.
And where do you see it right there?
That's our region.
I can't really tell.
But Sands Road is, it's not part of us.
And the road is
Well,
on the other side of it.
Thank you.
It's sort of new, track.
Yeah. For instance, I mean, like Weaver Boat Works, and I mean, some of those places that are manufacturing.
So a marine is falling under industrial, or how are you classifying?
Everything more, dealing more with industrial.
What's, do you know if,
I think that the properties that are captured under, probably somewhere in that there's a large warehouse property. I think it's less about the zoning of the property and more about the type of building that's on the site. So in some cases, like a Weaver Boat Works, right, that has a manufacturing component to it, they have that large warehouse on there, that'll fall into this category. But I think there's traditional marinas that are just, maybe, a working yard and things like that, probably wouldn't fall into this, it could fall into this category.
I would presume, for instance, that the Smith Brothers around the corner falls into industrial, not into marina, right?
Archie too.
Archie's too.
So it's got one dot, like down in, Edgewater, Pub area, it's got to big because of the park where, plays green.
About, could be,
I just trying to figure out.
I think you need a better, just a little bit better.
One is the very low.
I think that is, would be able to.
Which,
It's big, but it's a zero. There's a blue thing on there.
what's the date on this,
This was, I pulled this in August.
Okay.
So. If something's changed since then.
oh, yes, it will.
so, you know, another follow-up question on the 10 days, that's 0%. Would that inform decision makers to go, looks like we need more industrial properties? We don't have enough.
It all depends on the area, zoning, it all depends on, what the community wants. So.
This is a difficult region to pull data for industrial property, obviously, there's 14 industrial, 5 like those. Like I said, one company leads, right, and that's gonna skew the data tremendously when you have 14 properties. So it's kind of tough to capture industrial data, but it's easier for context. I can tell you, compared to the rest of the county, these numbers are kind of silly, because there's 5 properties. Compared to the rest of the county, you typically see a lot of that product up in the northern part. And Bay Area just below, it's over pretty something. The industrial market, the county profession is doing very, very well right now. And it's kind of a moot point because it's not like we're gonna look at those numbers and be like, oh, we need more industrial in South County. And that's not what that's not the conclusion that we're trying to do.
I would imagine that that's our work. Is that our work? To look at the land use map and say, enough, too much, too little, and make recommendations on questions like Richard? Isn't that
Sorry, my conversation, so when we get, part of tonight, we'll start my conversation, correct? And when we get to the land use and zoning conversation early next year, that'll be part of the conversation, absolutely. But not just industrial.
No, exactly. Thank you.
And I would love.
So can anybody hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so this was actually a problem that we had. So in the 2040, when we did that little Lego exercise, when we were looking at how we were going to put in X amount of housing over time. And my question was, why does it have to be that number? Could we choose to ask for more housing or less housing over that same amount of time? So I want to make sure that when we talk about, we're going to talk about this in the future, that if South County says, yeah, we want more industrial, we want more industrial. Or if we don't want more industrial. And that needs to be put into writing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole purpose we're here, right? To have this vision, to have this idea of what the future is going to look like. So tonight, if we get to a site where you think, oh my God, that's perfect for an industrial location. Hey, right?
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but we were told the same thing in 2040 and it didn't happen. So
sure. But I mean, at the same time, I can't speak to 2040 because I wasn't here for 2040, but I can talk about the region plan, and we finished region. So I was part of the previous set, and we had this conversation, right? We had a conversation where we thought more housing should be. And for example, there were times where the SAC created their own recommendation, where that did not align with staff's recommendation. So both of those recommendations were being presented to county council. So if you as a group come up with and say, hey, we need more industrial over here or more housing over here, you guys can have that recommendation to yourself. Staff may disagree, but both are going to be listed. You're both going to have an opportunity to be viewed upon by the decision makers of the county.
well, my point is that we never had the opportunity to give that input as the 2040 committee. And I want to make sure that our input is heard this next time.
Absolutely, and it will be. That's what we're going to have. We're going to talk about consensus when we start talking about zoning applications, land use, zoning recommendations. When the group as a consensus on anything, it'll be noted, and it'll be, again, it may be different than staff, it'll be different than PA, it'll be noted.
Good.
And just a point to the previous, this map, the blue dot could just mean that it's occupied currently, but it's available to be leased. So that's why you need to see 0 and you say, well, there's a blue dot up there. That is
John, but what is the flex?
a flex, that's a good, very good question. Flex property is one of those that you see that has like an office in the front, or it might have retail in the front, but it has a warehouse in the back, or just, you know, one of those a loading dock, roll up doors type.
And Discovery Village is an old research facility, so there's a reason why it's out there, not really by itself.
Oh, and there's a reason why it's vacant, most of them.
A reason why it's vacant, well.
Needs to be pulled down. Everybody will. Somebody will.
But this is, it's the perfect example, 19.8% vacancy rate, yeah, 5 properties. If one's vacant, it's 20.
But I mean, it doesn't, you look at the map of District 9 and say, if you're going to have industrial uses, golly, it doesn't look like it ought to be in the maritime realm, because we've got all that shoreline. And all those folks, this is not where you want to put an Amazon warehouse, but the road. No. And then the top of the county, is this where you want to put a data center in an area that's gonna flood, and you're gonna have to pump water over the roof? No, right, so it lends itself to a certain kind of development size industry because of the nature of the county, and it's fun.
I think it's important to remember too, that, you know, even if you wanted to make a recommendation to add industrial rate. The nature of South County and the infrastructure is important to think about as well. You know, the roads will support industrial, the water, sewer, and all the other infrastructure will be difficult to support all our numbers. South County sort of has that set up for a reason to kind of keep it rolling here. It would be very difficult, I think, to wave a magic wand and rezone things, industrial without the support.
Well, you know, and some folks will, even in this neighborhood here, would complain that some things are a little large coming down the roads to industrial sites that they have. Even though that it's a wonderful business, for the county to have something like that.
So. Okay, economic drivers in Region 9. Well, don't have to tell you guys, a lot of marinas here. Here's a list of just a few I was able to fit onto this. But I mean, that's the maritime industry. I mean, it's huge down there. And everybody here kind of knows that, I'm sure. You don't have to go very far to find it. And the watermen down here are, you know, business owners. It's fantastic. And agriculture is another big driver. We at Economic Development have an entire ag program. It's called Arundel Ag. Here's a few pictures that this is Holiday Memories Farm. So there's a little bit of agritourism down here. We also have the Rockhold Creek Barn, where a lot of the students at Southern High and 4-H and FFA would go down there and take care of a lot of different animals, and then they take them to the fair. But agriculture, it's a very important. It's
Do you know how many acres are currently in agriculture and how many of them are good? And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's an agricultural preserve and it's sold, that easement stays with the property.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about how much that is in agricultural.
Her company is
And we do have an agricultural, person in our office, she, is going to have great over here, and I think that's how we'll come back.
Two comments in mind about maritime and ag, obviously, you guys have to keep the room in this, discussion. We're also reaching out to the county maritime advisory board, any that's on, agricultural commission, to get their thoughts about, as those groups meet on a regular basis with county staff and others speak about what improvements we can do to help support those industries, right for their input, we'll share with you guys that.
We also have a new run on the merit, for our office. So Tony, Environmental Research Center, if you haven't been down there, it's a beautiful hidden gem, in the county up there, along the road westwards. They have 2,650 acres up there, and do a lot of different things. But they have, we're one of the employees they have, one of our people.
Then from the federal government.
Yes, this is and yes, and they test a lot of different environmental stuff down there about how to clean water and keep stream restorations. There's a whole lot if you go down there. They also have trails down there if you want to go down and we just spend a day. It's absolutely beautiful.
Good lectures and special programs, water fowl, planting the shoreline, and lots of good programs.
And they come from the river a lot, get clean.
And you can come take a hike, but you can't bring your dog.
You can also be a citizen scientist.
You're looking for volunteers.
With that, are there any other questions for me, the data side of things?
So you talked about employed people in the context of the economy. There's no one. And retirees are a big part of the population in this part of the county. So how do we find out about the impact that the retired community has on Region 9, economically and otherwise?
More data, staff, get that data, we're hoping to have that data soon. One of our data staffers actually just had a child, he was off for about a week, so we're trying to catch him on and get it, but we will give you that data.
And as far as the economic engine, I mean, you saw the list of marinas, but for all of us, when you go to Cruiser First during the summer, and you see a Porsche, they're probably not local, right? Those guys are coming from Harrington Harbor, Majestic Yacht Club or somewhere. So those marinas are a great economic engine bringing in the tourists. And they're only here for 60 times, so we don't have to have the school seats and infrastructure for them, but they're spending their money locally, right? On services like at Harrington Harbor, or food at Christopher's, or going out in the restaurants, or buying in the shops. So it's an amazing engine that we don't have to have infrastructure to support, because they need to go back to them for dinner wherever they came from. You're experience with the how it's packed, but before the comes in, I'm sure probably 6 months in now. It's like probably doubling and tripling our population during that one time. I would be very curious to what other the side effects of that on our infrastructure from the time. It's pretty much built to support half, if not a quarter of that population over once a year, and then obviously we need something to triple. They know they don't stay here, but they do drive here, they do shop and eat here. And like, I'm assuming they use the bathroom and wash their hands. So what is that? I would assume their economic value tax, this tax revenue, and the things they buy and spend here, great, is much greater number than the number of flushes and floors, and I think it's good.
You got this down here, this, the weekends, you got a couple restaurants here
I will get into the road out here is jammed up, during dinner hour. And on the weekends, it's not full of all the people in Galesburg. You know, the restaurants are full of people from all over, same with deal. And historically, deal that's been the economy. You know, the old joke was, it had more liquor, had more bars than the church.
We're talking about being on the tourism, right? And we capture that here and we need to. Well, focus in on that because it is a huge driver.
The Antelope County has, the Annapolis and Antelope County, it's a tourism bureau, and they focus on. Okay.
Just another, students. Booming for want of a better word is Airbnbs. And that's something we possibly need data on as well to discuss and think through the economic health of South County. We have a lot more Airbnbs popping up and what is the impact on our region, for instance, that would be good data.
Beach is got, a resort on both ends and state road right between, and we need to consider the impact of that tourism, positive impact of tourism, and what the infrastructure in our community, how it's needs to be, supported, and rebuilt to support that growth and that positive impact. Without, and taking into consideration the water quality and the pollution and what it employs, because a lot of that might go right into consideration.
Actually, hey,
Yeah.
most of the folks, we can't do that, so they're captured on the boat and they have other services that they care about. So we should vote for you.
I'm just saying those considerations are what we're here.
So if you guys have any specific questions or related questions, let us know. We can have one with Jonathan. We'll get back to you. The tricky one is John mentioned earlier, reaching out to get to kind of a hands-on boundary. So there's no real perfect law. The data may be on a little bit. We are doing our best to start now, possible through everything. Any other questions? Jonathan, let us know. We'll get it off.
Thank you.
So there was a break, for now, but if we're waiting on the piece to get here, we can maybe keep going if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should keep going.
All right, everybody, we'll keep going, and, well, I mean, we're all about it, you guys, questions, feel free. Lex, do you want to do something before we kind of get started?
And I think we're gonna talk a little bit about, you obviously something tonight. I'm just gonna kind of provide some context and maybe a little bit of background and history about the site. And maybe as some context about some challenges for whatever that site could be. But I think the real goal is to listen to the group and hear about your ideas for what some of these sites could be or could not be.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is an opportunity, that's gonna be just guy and let's work and like do, or you guys have facilitating, you guys questions, just kind of seeing you guys think, and you guys vision science, right? So in a perfect world, like we can talk about is the visionary you guys like, or this is your playground, right? This is your channel, really make it what you want. You need the conversations, the discussions that are gonna set the foundation for the future zoning modifications, and other stuff of that nature, as well as the technical plan. So some of the opportunities like we're going to talk about tonight are pointed out, and I know it's hard to see, we're gonna walk through. But again, just, these are not just the only five from Region 9 that have, right? So there are anything you guys want to discuss, we have to discuss at some point in this process. But just to kind of get the ball rolling tonight, we take a handful of village areas with vacancies and stuff that we've done for the community. That and some of them are you guys talk about in your driving from the kickoff. So
if I can get the map, I brought up the big stores, Edgewater. We're sitting in Yellowville tonight. There's been a lot of conversation about vision for Yellowville, so we're going to talk about that tonight. And then, church for the deal, areas. We were respectful to these are my properties, not talking about planning for a county public school that we control and manage. So when we're respectful, we are reaching out to property owners and engaging with communities like Dale, kind of respecting what they're already saying. We look at these plans, we'll make kind of general recommendations on this. We're not gonna create a plan that shows, where different buildings and parking will be in Galesville, but just to kind of put it towards some of the ideas that are already in the vision document that kind of align with those groups as areas. And we think it's about how the county is supported. We might say, wouldn't it be great to have this different use of the property, but one of the important questions of the county is how do we help make that happen? And so that could be recommendations around, like the work that the Arundel Corporation be helping promote and market, recommendations around the county's part of the work to say, we need sidewalk, and there needs some, other physical improvements to the area to help these projects happen. So we'll be having kind of prompt ideas like that too, as we go through these conversations. The first opening piece is just, we're putting on sleep in place, and regarding the conversations, we can kind of dig them side by side.
So more context, are we talking about any variety? A range of applications?
Again, these talk about a lot of good Galesville, let's just envision, right? So let's talk about what we want to see in different areas. What's your Water around along Route 2, we have the big KR building down in the South Colony.
Oh, yeah, I can talk about that.
So, the mall, has the KR building, and then we also have the big Halloween store, just north of that.
It says this is the Halloween store.
And that on the left, right side of the screen is a couple streets over. It's the Middle Road Village Center, highlighted in blue. This is the designated Main Street Village Center, Region 9, 45.40. And just to kind of give a definition, the Main Street Village Center are dense village centers. There were much lower density than towns. And with commercial constituted sort of local, not regional need. Development should include buildings with shallow floorback, street front, parking primarily behind or on the side of the building, and residential uses integrated in upper floor apartment, live work spaces, townhouses, and small to mid-sized apartment buildings under 10. So just kind of keep that in mind when we talk, if you guys want to talk about that, and we can talk about the definition as well as zoning conversation. You have things should be expanded, maybe not so big. This really is what you guys do, right? There's an opportunity for you to really find any idea you have throughout it.
So if we put it a different way, what would we want this area of Edgewater to look like 10 to 15 years?
And this is the Mayo Road card.
On the right side.
Right.
Could I preface all this with keep in mind?
for the folks that live south of Edgewater, Mayo. When we have to get to north of here, it becomes a bottleneck. And I remember when they put the new bridge in over the river, they said it was gonna be the new gateway to the rest of the southern part of the county. And empty buildings for somebody that has to drive through this is good. You know, because I don't want to go right up against the road in a traffic light. I drive through Baltimore 2-3 times a week. Lights aren't synchronized, the light on every corner. It's horrible. So for the folks that live in the southern part of Anne Arundel County that have to traverse this thing every day, it's not fun. So that has to be a consideration when we redevelop or add to, take away from.
So transportation concerns such as, in health transportation system, idea, improvements, just, so that's kind of stuff we're listening to you on board, and there's nothing wrong, there's no wrong, there's a right answer, it's all you can. All I need, it's really important for this, so, I don't know about the jump out of.
One issue with that I see, I live in it. The village center idea and the Route 2 idea, love these, but yeah, that was under zero. The issue of small businesses where if you want to go to 2 different shops, you can't go through one parking lot to the next. I'm not saying it should all be, but it should be easier to, can somebody articulate this better than you?
Yeah.
Because there's something going to have commercial. That coffee thing.
So potentially, reevaluate work.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And access.
For my record here, this, these rectangles on the lower left, that's the library, the police station.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, and so this comes down and to include the pickup trucks and the,
Yes.
okay,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One other thing on that,
You guys speak up.
well, I will say the other day, on it, as maybe are really important, one of those businesses that falls in the town center, and maybe you can think about, is, as a business that is on that, in that area, you have residential. Sometimes it's really hard to operate business, because you're dealing with, your next door neighbor, you don't understand your next door neighbor, now we don't understand your next door neighbor.
So how do you guys envision public staying areas along? Some of it may be good, have they ones? It may not. Well, how do you guys, think should maybe, should this be a commercial? Should it be residential? Do we need industrial right on the road here?
I know that the one big sticking point is that you have children that are traversing to school while people are going the opposite way to work. So basically cuts everybody going to the main 2 road because they don't want to stop with the children often and people on the road. So I would hope there's some way to build some type of path over traffic so that they can go to the designated crossing areas and somebody to across the street. So now they have the traffic. That's a big part of the problem. Kids are leaving and people, thinking about it, they do no more. Soccer, high school. And then on the other thing, and I wish all here about city hall for have a few ones. I guess maybe a multi-sport complex, maybe with a hockey brand in the United States. There are a lot of people who are traveling to Disney and then the party, and we have. Because we had
So some principles I think I'd like us to consider and hopefully get into is that these should be local businesses and not national chains. As part of the beauty of the potentially under the road, that they are all locally owned businesses. And even the subway.
Yeah.
Those two businesses are locally owned, even though they're national franchises. And so I would not want to see, national, anything come in here. I think these should be reserved for local business people, for operating small scale businesses who don't have the strength to compete with national brands.
Could we not have another car wash?
We're building another one.
I know,
Yeah, well,
three's
nothing,
enough.
but nothing's happened with it. They knock the building down and then.
I think they're in permitting.
If this is a commercial strip. And we were trying to funnel. That to that stretch of road. I think it's in a perfect world, it would all be locally owned, but I don't think we can. I think we can say that as a wish, but we can't tell, we can't expect, Royal Farms to not move in, or another Safeway or some other, big, chain or something move in. It's
So the county should incentivize the small brands.
Right.
I don't think you're gonna see a big way because of the footprint of all those shops and they're.
By the way, that's the super clean out. Very more efficient than you can do now.
Yeah, I was just gonna be, actually, but all of this conversation is wonderful. But yeah, both sides are perfectly correct. Just because we zone something one way, we can't put a little asterisk next to it and say, this is C2 except not a Dunkin' Donuts because we have 4 of those already. You can't put those stipulations on it, but there are, programs in place, that, do have, opportunities to incentivize local development.
And maybe that's a good segue into, so I was gonna get to open this kind of conversation up, but this is a good slide to do it on. The county does have, we economic development have several programs, resources, financial resources that are available to help small business. One of those programs is the revitalization program. Essentially, it's a facade improvement program. So there's 11 revitalization districts throughout the county. Recently, we had a few small business owners in South County approach us and say, it looks like a great program. I own a property in Deal in South County. North County has all those resources and programs. How come we can't have anything in South County? And after thinking about it, actually not thinking about it too long, and looking at the commercial corridors, some of the commercial corridors in South County, said, yeah, these are some areas that could definitely use some revitalization, could use some side, things like that. So we started to kind of talk about, could we expand these 11 districts to include some in South County as well? So we've looked at areas like Deal Church, and we've looked at areas here, Galesville, commercialism properties in Galesville. And then this Mayo Road corridor as well. I mean, there's a lot of commercial along that road, and a lot of it's kind of dated. And when I say revitalization, I don't mean large scale redevelopment. I think that in South County especially, the program would be, again, towards facade. So the program that we have is, it's a $100,000 loan, interest-free for facade improvement. Anything that's gonna make the exterior look better on the outside. So if it's paint, doing a new facade, landscaping, signage, anything that's gonna improve the exterior of the property. It's $100,000 with 0% interest.
So would a town center like this automatically qualify for that type of program?
Not currently. So there's 11 districts throughout the county.
That'd be great to fix.
Currently, there's none in South County.
Yeah.
Right now, we're exploring the idea of expanding it into South County. So
Well, I'm saying slightly different. I'm saying the designation of a town center often comes with an automatic being qualified for this facade program you're talking about, just because it's a town center. And what they're planning to do in Deal and elsewhere, it's a different thing, and I don't want to argue that.
I'm gonna get policy here for a second, just clarify terms. We have the commercial development area program is created by county code. So in the code itself, they are designated and defined. So county council have to act, they have to adopt a map that shows the boundary of it. The designation that was shown for the Mayo Road area, that comes from Plan 2040, General Development Plan. And so that's a policy area, it doesn't have not codified. And it's village center, not town. So there are 3 town centers, that's Parole, Glen Burnie, Oakton. And the key thing that I mentioned that before is that when we talk about those town centers, that's a higher level of intensity and density of development. The village center is more like a small town feel.
And that's what I think Mayo is.
Yes.
So, but, I mean, there are old buildings there, existing buildings, new development.
I'm gonna suggest, guys, that we get some food and we talk through.
Sure.
This is called a working dinner. You guys work and we eat.
Thank you, Vika.
Thank you.
I guess I get it wrong. Did you have
I was just gonna say before we take a break, if you wanna ponder on it while you eat, maybe a recommendation from the SAC could be to, maybe recommend that the county council or whoever explore including an area such as the area in this village center to be included in one of the.
So that's what I was kind of getting at, is we sort of approached planning and zoning and said, hey, we'd like to expand some of these districts to the South County. And the response basically was like, let's let that recommendation come from this group. So that's what.
So that would be a yes.
That would be a yes.
Yeah. Person who's not clear, the maps are clear, so I'm not clear where the blue represent. If you could give us some landmarks along that line, so we know where we are.
The police station,
Definitely
the
like-
senior center,
Definitely Lane.
the library,
Okay,
is that not?
yes,
Okay, and then all the way at the top, the box at the top is Edgewater, and this formerly.
And then right where her other person is Royal Farm, the back, and
where the hell were we?
Yeah, well,
no. We have all the way into the.
Yeah.
Grab something.
All right, let's take a break and get some.
So it sounds to me like there's support for what Matt was saying in terms of a recommendation from this group, at least preliminarily for our conversation. Does that resonate with folks?
Yeah.
it does definitely for the Mayo Road Village Center. I don't know if I would have that same conversation about which.
He was talking about is for village center.
Right.
Or it's to apply other places.
Yeah, one is this border, this very border, and then there's some commercial areas in, and we might get some slides that have it, but there's some commercial corridors in, like the deal, and they're older districts, right? In other areas of the county that have this district, it's older
aging areas of Glenburnie, the older buildings, Bath Road, Brooklyn Park. There's one of those, and so it's the older areas of the community that need sort of replacement. So there's not a whole lot of continuous commercial corridors in South County as a whole. But where we can find a lot of continuous commercial company that has some age on it, that can use some reinvestment, we'd like to extend. We'd like to officially extend the boundaries down here. In the meantime, I think that our office is interested in expanding just the loan program, which again is $100,000 interest-free for facade improvements. And right now, there's actually a 25% grant. So that's free money on top of that.
What was the name of that program?
ACR. ACR fund. If you go to our website, there, you look at it on that ACR program. So we like that before legislative it passes. I think we have the flexibility and the ability to extend just the loan program portion of that. There's also a tax credit program that's available to properties in the commercial revitalization districts, which would happen after they officially go through legislation. The South County districts that are pretty good have access to the tax credit program as well. Comes from the county, comes from my office.
So has economic development targeted any specific areas that then want to increase our presence in? I'll give you an example. In the early 80s, the Economic Development Department in Alexandria, Virginia, targeted the not-for-profit community and made an aggressive effort to bring associations from all over the country into Alexandria. The proximity to DC was strong. But they went out and recruited, and we brought our group from Ohio to Alexandria in no small part because of the effort that the Economic Development Department did. Is your department doing anything like that in specific industries?
Yeah, so business attraction is definitely something that we do for economic development, going out and helping businesses come to locate here in the county. We have in the past targeted specific industries. Back in BRAC was happening back in 2008, 2010.
Right.
You know, there's a big push to go out and try to get these defense contractors that had to move from Northern Virginia and try to get them to come locate to Fort Meade or the Fort Meade area. So we have done that in the past. We have sort of targeted industry specifics. You know, Anne Arundel County is blessed to have so many large economic engines that I think any other jurisdiction in the state would love to have just one. We have the state's largest employer in Fort Meade. We have BWI Airport, huge asset. We have obviously the city of Annapolis with all the government and tourism and hospitality that's there. We have the state's largest tourist attraction in Arundel Mills. So all of those things are great economic engines that are a huge attraction to businesses that frankly want to be here.
So what I wonder about is whether we should be more, or you should be more aggressive in the marine industry, in the maritime industry, given what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I think a big focus of ours is really providing a lot of assistance to the businesses that are already here. They've made that investment to be here, so we want to make sure that they're successful. And you know, we certainly are focused on the maritime industry. We have something in our office focused on it. We have somebody that sits on the maritime advisory board. So it's definitely a big focus of ours.
And I have one more question before we think about moving to the next area. There's been a lot of conversation about Cleveland and whether that property could be redeveloped for housing. The infrastructure is there. I know it's privately owned, but is the county doing anything to reach out to owners of properties like that to encourage them? I'm sorry, that's your topic, isn't it? Go for it.
So the Kmart specific, you were mentioning about redeveloping other properties, so I'm only speaking about Kmart. As a resident of South River Colony, a business came to our homeowners association meeting and spoke to us about the acquisition and subsequent subdivision of the Kmart. There was also a second business that has expressed interest in one of the, when this business, it isn't closed yet. When the business takes over the first section, there's a set of business interested in the second section. So there is movement on the redevelopment of the Kmart. None of this is officially because the other business have not yet. What? I decline to say it this time, because it's not official.
That is not happening, but I might have a little information. What do you know?
I know that we're working on posting, but go back to your original question about housing. There was a group that came and expressed interest in redeveloping that property into, multifamily housing. And, this is 6 months ago, 9 months ago, something like that. I actually longer than that, maybe a year ago. And at the time, it was pretty much shut down by the county council person who didn't want to support residential at that site, just because I think the impact and probably the community pushback. So that died.
On that note too, again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the SAC as a whole, for example, the Kmart site is a perfect spot for more density residential. That's the recommendation you guys, that's the most you to provide for county council to ultimately review and see. Now, because you guys are, you represent Region 9, right? So you guys are the ones in the communities on a daily basis. So you guys can provide that recommendation and a justification saying, hey, we know what we're talking about. We think you need residential here. Or you guys disagree. No, commercial are better, right? You guys, that's a whole process we're going to talk about later on in the zoning. And these sites that we're going to go through tonight, we're not expecting all these answers to come tonight. These conversations we have just 4 sites, 4 locations. It's a tough talk tonight. The region's much larger. We are going to talk about the entire region, piece by piece by piece, later on in the year. So don't feel like you have to be ordered now, even though Jeff's taking notes, Mike's taking notes. We're going to make sure if you have something to say, you're going to have the opportunity to say. I promise you.
If I agree. Two things, the Mayo corridor, walkability needs to be emphasized. As does Mike, problem is the state road and getting into the state funding, transportation funding queue is even more difficult. The other one is on Route 2, that area from the Goodwill down to where McDonald's is mostly vacant at this point. There's a utility company there. There are 2 or 3 that are gone. And that seems like a perfect target for something. So
I want to speak, I completely agree. I was mentioning to you, Eric, that the electric tractor closed, and then just to the north of that, at 3167 Solidano Road, had been a home and has since been rezoned, but has no tenant. So I even called Griffith Oil just to make sure they were still operating because no one's been cutting their grass.
I don't know what the potential or possibility would be, parking situation. Possibly looking at having a parking garage at some point or in that area, maybe where about the battery, they want to go donate the park lane. So we gave some of the parking in offer where people have more, because I know all the businesses want to keep their less, I think, for themselves, so there's like a war on parking. Yes, understandably so, but it's like, it feels like everybody's cannibalizing on each other.
Which side you're talking about?
Like, so, you know,
Mayo.
the whole battery warehouse.
Oh, the Mayo.
Yeah. I think that was either the county owned side or like in that county owned area, or that's a walk, and then that's like the worst part, I think, the street. On that side, I don't know if people really want to walk around that corner and down the business area and really. I think it's maybe other than that would be that
what you know, battery shop and like with cigars as well.
So before we move on, kind of a quick recap of just a few points I've heard and just to try to do all the hard work back. Walkability, safety, parking, and just the overall, the feel for the. Those are some of the big ideas we've heard tonight. Again, we're gonna be able to move forward a little deeper with these aspects when we get into the zoning conversations early next year. This is a great start, kind of set that foundation. But when come April, we can come back to you guys and say, hey, this week to that time, I think they've changed. What do you guys want to build off of?
Thank you.
So, again, right outside the door, we are. One thing I forgot to mention, Matt, thank you for sending me the Envision Mayo plan. I put that on to your guys' Google Drive. So if you guys want to take a look at that, it's the same location as the Envision Mayo plan. So that's all there for you guys.
We did that in 2019 at about 100 and some odd people. We couldn't do it over the 6 to 8 months.
And then just again for clarification, not a county-led process.
No, we did that independently.
Yeah.
First, after the chair. That we got Kevin representatives here. Should I what the committee was thinking about?
Well, sure, I mean, we very much support some of the things that were in this document, in terms of, you know, improving the revitalization of the area. We have the Cobb Store Market project that, is underway right now. And, we also have, support for, you know, the waterfront initiative. That's a big effort that's going on right now. We're trying to get vision for the waterfront so that we can improve the connectivity of the businesses that are there and provide more activity for children at the waterfront. But with all of these things comes some challenges because we have parking issues right now too. So one of the things that recently happened was they changed the tennis courts, the pickleball courts down here. And so that opened up a lot of issues because you're not just having two people come and play tennis. You know, you have a whole group of people and you have a conference. And not too long ago, we had a perfect storm where we had things going on in the community at different areas, and we had so much parking problems that, you know, if somebody really had a health issue, emergency equipment couldn't get into the area. So I think, with this Envision Galesville, though, we have a good foundation here and a lot of communication going on to bring, to better the community and build on, these efforts to revitalize the area. This idea of that you brought today, I think is we're very interested in here. Some, you know, some of the programs that are in place, you just don't have, we don't meet the requirements. So if we can expand some of those for South County and lessen some of the criteria that are required for these programs, then we would be very interested in that as well.
So one thing with the downtown Galesville area, it is considered a historic village center. And the definition of that in 2040 is their existing area is much of the traditional village form, a small scale commercial, the downtown core, started by residential. Right? You can kind of imagine this right. Infill and development should occur, we should reinforce the traditional village form with a mix of uses in the core and a scale compatible with the existing development. So the scale is very important. It sounds like that's something that's very explicit. We want to get through sites. The scale seems to be a key theme for our vision on so far. The village should be oriented close to the street with active street fronts. Pedestrian ways should be scaled for pedestrian use, and community civic and gathering spaces, the many should be handled. So basically, everything it sounds like everything I've heard, part of everything that's in that I've read from you available seems like it kind of aligns perfectly with the definition of historic village center. right? And to show you, this is the current zoning of the Galesville area right now, but this is an example of what, what a small scale commercial downtown area could look like, right? So one thing that's a theme here is design, right? Design, pedestrian in mind, that one. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, this may be all based off what you guys are envisioning, but this is just one of many, many examples that could be quite.
Really, add commentary to this. So, all right, those are examples of improvement as Wes mentioned earlier. Where, zero loan, they take up the thought at the top, but the current idea at the bottom is, an improvement where they have brighter colors, and some planes, and landscaping, improve the curve deal. And then the image on the left, it's kind of that pure scale downtown, and there's no further momentum in addition to the county's commercial competition. There's an office state and the national. And they have some fundamental principles that have proven to be really effective in small downtowns around the country. One of it is kind of, the sort of design, getting together, making sure that you kind of get the requirements and guidelines written in place. That way, if someone does want to do that, so you're building that look, feel place, really want to create that place. The streetscape improvements, want to do walking around the visit. So, sidewalk improvements, the main thing that have a big flower, like living by any parties, those kind of things. Organizing, make sure the local businesses and property owners have some kind of organization structure in place, that they're coordinating, collaborating on marketing programs, often really important for these things. Having events in the town. I can speak to when schedule, like get together to do something. And again, once you have that structure, that makes it, you're building the capacity, so it's on a longer term, they work at the county, state level, and help provide funding for these. So I just think we can look at, help support Galesville, and see if that Main Street program is going to be fit. Every program has a criteria about size, things like that. It may not be exact, but even if the program itself doesn't fit, the idea behind its principles could be really helpful.
So one of the things that we'll need to talk about when we get to zoning, but has some application to what we're talking about now, is that the kinds of changes that we're envisioning don't necessarily fit with the existing zoning codes. So it strikes me that in everything I've read and what I read for the Envision Gales will be an example, is that we need more flexibility in the code in order to do the kinds of things that people say we need to make the communities, especially in South County, residential friendly, that are walkable, that are livable, and that don't have a set of rules that are designed for a big subdivision. So I don't know what that translates to, but as we start to think about the specifics, those may be kind of outcomes that we want to work towards, so that what we don't end up with is a cookie cutter kind of community or series of village centers, but something that's unique to South County.
Not point to real quick for what Kate just mentioned is very important, and I think it's, this is that time process, right? So we're not asking you to be active. That's what we have experts study for, right? So we have these zoning meetings, perhaps someone showing here saying, well, you can do this in C4, you do this in C3, and I don't know, I read it, right? But they do, they know. So when we ask you to have conversations, just think about what would you like to see in here, and then we'll have to translate that into the code. And one thing that through my creation my process already is what Kate said. There are limitations in code. The code's not perfect. And the first thing that comes to mind is the marina designation. In MA1, that's a very basic rule of marina, right? It's basically dock, cliff, and boat ramp. Paraphrasing here. But MA2 is a big jump we have restaurants, you have bars, you have all this stuff. But there should be, some people are arguing that there should be something in the middle, right? There should be able to have a little more intermediate, but not quite a bar, not kind of quite a restaurant. So one of the recommendations, the first set of regional plans that I have is to evaluate the land designation, especially creating more neighborhood friendly. And that's something that this group right here can also work. For any residential, commercial, whatever it may be, or even if it's something that's never been thought of before, this is an opportunity for you all to really, again, this is your sandbox. You have an opportunity to really kind of think however you want to think, really provide that recommendation, however you see fit. So that's my speech, just for more of a motivation to really help be involved in providing your.
You pointed out, landscaping and all the volume video, they know our members in the morning, we are bringing up development. They know duty or probably that we used to do a really good job. They had a, city funded plan would allow residents, to handle reasons, over the, on the person, the side was, maybe not just the Gale, for the entire area, we also struggle with water. There's a program that Arundel offers skill sets. I don't think we really have scheduled plan on really
And I think, I just want to appreciate all the work that you've done with us to try to, move forward with some of the initiatives that are important to the individual growth program. We really appreciate it, but like for the initiative on the waterfront, you know, we want to have a vision, but we want to have county support to get a master plan for that vision. So we're not just spot fixing things. You know, we really want to see the big picture of the waterfront and how it works with the community and all the connectivity that goes with it, and the sidewalks and walking and the biking. And I know that's a big ask, but we feel like if we do that work up front, we'll really end up with something that's very unique for Galesville that will bring, you know, people here and help with some of the economic vibrancy.
Town lighting, because there's a lot of traffic, and really our be able to see all the traffic.
Specific to Galesville, there's, and for a specific example, some of the things that we're talking about are like the general plan and policy, like to see, but an example of something very specific with zoning is that the West River Sailing Club wants to buy part of a parcel that was connected with the top store and be able to expand. It's a little bit of the light blue there. And so those are the types of conversations that I hope that we can have, and I guess we'll be seeing some specific proposals at some point. But the West River Sailing Club does some really great things with youth sailing and learn to sail. The South River and Southern High School teams are sailing out of there. It's the most accessible place to be able to come and learn how to sail if you're an adult or a kid. There's really nowhere else in our whole county that is affordable, and they are. And I think if we can incorporate some of those things and think about how seems like one of the perfect examples of what we probably are all here to do. It's like make the community better, help support more access to water, diversity, you know, all of those things. And the cost store is part of that. And I think that that's really a great asset to the community too. So.
I got a question, sort of comment. The other go. 20 years ago, I was in this room, we were talking about one small area plan 20 years ago. And Galesville, way back then, one of their main wants was a sidewalk. Went all the way down. They had tried in different ways, they got the prices. 20 years later, this past time, they were finally. But my question is, how did Galesville, did they persist? Did it fall out of the sky? How did they end up finally 20 years later getting their sidewalk?
How fast did it?
Okay,
I'm not sure the funding came from, but that seems like that was.
Yeah, it's part of that.
It's part of the park thing, money.
But it's not totally complete, it's still. Because there's still some pushback in the area to,
Right.
from homeowners.
That's always.
Yeah, so we still have that issue that is ongoing.
Right, so Galesville, every year, whenever they had a chance, they lobbied for their side. Even though it was in a small area.
Right.
But it is part of it. There was no way.
There was some homeowners.
So going back to your that slide, one of the challenges in a situation like this is, as much as we would like these communities to be walkable, there's still automobile communities, and there's no parking in either of these two examples here. And so figuring, and you're gonna see problems in the Mayo Village Center as well. And so figuring that, I don't have a solution, I'm just announcing a problem.
So, to kind of help that is, so a lot of conversations you guys are gonna have is gonna help determine what kind of place do you want these areas to be, right? So if you want something that's a little more spread out, that maybe has some parking in the back or whatever, that would be part of the right of the plan, right? So if you guys want something that's 100% walkable, where you have to take a bus here to get it, if that's what you guys want to give you a recommendation, right? The likelihood of it being is, we understand that there are limitations. We understand that there are, the United States of America, and most of this country is designed phenomenal. It has been, is, and always probably always will be, right? Take that as you will, if you like it or not, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean you can't design your place and have a simple place, have a perfect place in these areas. So if these areas that you guys really truly see it as a vision for a walkable community, just because there may be parking concerns, where there's a will, there's a way out. That's how I think. And I think if you create, so if you guys really have these strong ideas for something, that can be put into a plan and be part of hopefully talk about Galesville being a study of this area, that could absolutely be right.
So, I grew up in Galesville, we were very young, and a lot of my family lived here, still does. And I remember Galesville from a while ago, and at that time, I hate to say how long ago, but a long time ago, the buildings that are here now are still pretty much here. So when you look down at the end of Main Street, and the top side, which is, I forget what it's called now, but it's vacant. And the restaurant in front of that is vacant. It's right along the waterfront would be the north side of Main Street, right at the very end. Those buildings are vacant. I know the Market House and other things, right, that whole strip is basically not utilized. And then you go and like the Walton gas station, it's just up here at, Benny, my question, not Benny, no, that's Wood City. Yeah, and then the next to the right, that was occupied. And I think when I think about Galesville, I think about Galesville from 40 years ago, and I think of those buildings being vibrant and basically taking those buildings, and what I would see for Galesville, and the waterfront, I'm not familiar with that project down there. The West River Sailing School, I totally agree. That makes a lot of sense. And it's a nice resource for the community and at larger community. But the other places, to me, to just look like they need a nice refurbishment. In essence, if you just take what you have and make it nicer, but basically keep the bones of it, I think you'd have something really special, because I think if you lose some of that flavor from the historical past, I think you'll lose some of the charm. And I don't think, in my personal opinion, when I look at the things on the right, I don't see, that doesn't look like Galesville to me. And the stuff on the left, although I like the looks of it a lot, that's a much more dense than what I've ever saw or thought Galesville would be in the future. But that's just how my experience with Galesville then. And, you know, I remember, and as far as walkability, I find Galesville pretty walkable. I mean, we got sidewalks, and the quality of sidewalks and whatever, but I remember, you know, riding a tricycle on that when I was a kid. And, so it seems pretty nice to me.
I'll add a word for consideration, historical authenticity, because it's gonna be the same thing when you get to the Deal Village as well. It needs to reflect what the community is about.
So I'm gonna raise a question. It's 8:10.
Yes.
There's people on the phone and there are people here who are gonna wanna make comments. We have 2 more communities to cover. What's your tolerance?
Tolerance for what?
For sitting,
So, suggesting we stay till 9 or 9:30?
suggesting we say till 9.
Yes.
Yeah.
No later than 9, please.
So that means we need to move on.
October.
May I just say one more thing? No, I'd like to echo what Hamilton said, and I think that's part of the discussion that we had in the Vision Galesville. I mean, it wasn't trying to make Galesville anything much different than it is, other than more vibrant than it is. And, you know, obviously, it took a turn down, and there were properties that were vacant that, and we've even had discussions about different things that could go into those various properties. And sometimes the timing isn't working out, but we've even talked to Mr. Pittman about, you know, investing in maybe a property that might be, housing a pocket community or something like that, or affordable housing and that type of thing. So, thank you for coming
And we can talk more about that when we talk about the housing part of it.
right.
I didn't hear anybody say that you said outside. I mean, I hear a lot of talk about the market, but nothing about outside.
Still privately,
It's private, still privately owned, and so hands are tied, but it's something that the community comments on, whenever they get a chance to comment on it and bring forward, and that they would like to see that something doesn't happen to it, but as long as it's privately owned, we still want to kind of tie. Well, that's the concern.
So we need to stop this conversation. I mean, we could talk about this for the rest of the night. We still have 2 more communities to talk about.
Could we put on there, like, economic and foundation? Some of the coffee, or maybe. Maybe higher than.
Put it on consideration.
So, I have to say one thing about all of these properties. The term walkability, I just want to say, to me, walking safely or riding a bike safely with automobiles, not one or the other, and to make it walkable, you can feel safe if you're driving, walking, riding a bike, and car, and the infrastructures.
Talk more about that transportation, but there's a great thing called Liberty Rail, get everybody right now. It talks about how pedestrian bikes automobiles live peacefully in harmony with one another. So, but, okay, so we move on, Christian, this is another area that's one of the core building center. So, we're designated as a core building center for plan 2040. So again, the small scale commercial, the downtown feel, that kind of stuff.
You had to point out that the gray, the big black, that's Christopher's.
Okay.
And then Royal Farms across
Across the
there,
street, yeah.
and then it goes to the dentist office, I guess. And that's a big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how, since I don't know how the rest of you feel about Christian versus the two we've talked about and Deal. It's the closest village center to me, but it doesn't feel like a village center
At all.
and it doesn't feel like it will ever become a village center.
It can be.
It's a cooperative, it's not a village. It's a cooperative.
Property that you want to know, and, parcel with a few days, wants to go there, is that where, we do the place, put in the Dollar General, which then the community again. But you don't see a lot of, I guess, smaller businesses wanting to go in there, and not a lot of small businesses probably have the capital to build, small.
This is kind of to the point about earlier where we talk about village center designations, should be bigger, should be smaller. This is an area like, so we have two different viewpoints here from what I'm hearing. Is that some people may feel that it's not a village, they may never be a village center. And the other argument is, well, why develop that? There's stuff that's missing. So the question is, if you want it to be, if you envision this area as a village center, how does it look to you? Or if you don't want this vision as a village center, that's okay too. What do you guys think this area should have? What kind of vision should be here?
I'm going to dream big. I think it's one of the spaces that have the most potential for development. There is nothing there. So we can look at it that way. There is, and I think I had it on my slide in the first thing. It's an increasingly elderly population. Well, both sides. Young families are coming in, lots of children, and older population. There is nothing there for multi-generational anything. So a multi-generational recreation center would be fabulous. People are going to get a little. People are literally dying in their homes without any support because there's nothing to do. It's the population, I think, is increasing, and I might be wrong. Can't tell me the census, but there's increasingly nothing to do. So that I think would be very helpful. Walkability, I think, is for all areas that we're talking about. It's pretty dangerous to walk on those roads, and it shouldn't be. And I'll push back at the argument that America is a driving society. Nowhere was a driving society. Everybody used to walk. We've chosen not to add those in the development plans. That should have been standard from the beginning. So how do we fix that moving forward? I should be able to walk comfortably from Columbia Beach to Christopher without considering dying, which I've jumped in the ditch several times. So it's that bad, and increasingly speeding on that road, etc. So not sure what can be done in that area as well to manage the speeding on the road. It's have become a speedway. And that's a concern as well. And I'll stop for now.
For the record, I have to take that. I agree with you 100%. And add to your point, I took this one of these from your article, and you did mention that you consider adding a modern community center to cater for growing youth age population in families.
Two things, maybe looking at the potential, because I one of the only areas in this area that I see is really suitable for having like either a housing pocket or even some like multi-tier homes for population position. I look at that because we have like public water and sewer on that road, I believe, and kind of look at, you know, no,
It's somebody great.
Structurally, that the area there, which you call southwest corner, which was in, I don't know who went to now, comment and all. It is not as readily developable environmentally
It's a lot of it.
as you
Yeah.
think. And so if you take that area off the map, and you take away 1/4 of the town.
Yes, we did that. This is where we, right?
The two farms.
Yeah.
So from
there.
that whole part of the land is
Oh,
gonna be very hard to develop without bending some environmental.
Houses.
Wet, of course it wet.
That's all the other thing.
Well, I was just gonna, if that area isn't good for development, we're picturing, we're drawing up our wildest dreams of what we want this corner to look like. And so obviously we can't do anything with the wetlands, we all agree that they do. But if you think about the surrounding community, would not that pocket where the wetlands are, would other areas over here be an okay location for extra housing, and what would you want that to look like if it were? So I'm hearing potentially housing for multi-generations, maybe some older folks. I didn't hear, but based upon past comments, maybe some apartments that could be good for also younger folks, not just senior housing. Knowing what this area kind of looks like, nothing's too tall, nothing too grand. But would it just be a housing? Would you maybe want?
I like a new lifestyle of housing, I guess, that's like where it's got for restaurants, included, right, it's like, you know, the walk, like that's the new style that on the housing builder community going forward. Well, it's like 2010, they want to build the whole community, so you're building like a lifestyle, not just the house, you're kind of gearing it toward the people you want to live in. But I would also say that we need something we should think about, and I didn't hear any restrictions on the development of what needs to live there. It's something that I really enjoy is that we don't have a Walmart, and right now we are, I think, very much in danger of if the right person in the office. And we feel risky that there's one may be a Walmart there. So that's something that's very, really my heart, and I personally don't mind driving 30 minutes.
Oh, they didn't manage to get a super giant.
But that was now, but my generation is a lot less vocal and more vocal on Facebook, so.
You're planning 20 years out. And then
Yeah, so 20 years out, you guys probably might not be as active, and then that might.
It's very likely.
Well, we are laying the ground for today, just like in the land plan, what is built where we want development, what kind of development we want. And if there's folks here that don't want to affect the environment one way or the other, that is a limiting factor always moving forward in South County. Is you have lots of wetlands, you have lots of areas that don't drain, and it's going to get worse. So
The other,
looking at more buildable land, how are we going to turn this into a town? And we're wasting a lot of breath and a lot of wishful thinking should go somewhere else for a senior center or OH center or whatever.
I don't,
High ground or something.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, Nikki, about what we need. I just have issues about it being there for not only the reasons that have been raised, but the one concern that we'll talk about separately is transportation. And while we need more affordable housing, the reality is we don't need more people. You know, how many fatalities have we had on Muddy Creek in the last week? And that road's not gonna get any better. So it's a real concern. And so my comment was more that I think we have potentially deal to do some of the things we're talking about in a way that mitigates some of the issues that I think we have here in Church.
I'm trying to think of a different, I'm agreeing with William, that, imagining what's possible here. This is a crossing. And there's a cut through road, it's swamp circle or something, people are already avoiding this intersection by turning right and going through there. However, if you want to put housing there, and I can make the case for housing here, there's not enough commercial there to make for a good village center. Is that the designation we talk about, village?
Yeah, yes,
Sure.
but it's in sort of under point also, I really feel like you can also important. Sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, when I think of village center, I think of like the shops near where I grew up. But in this case, it truly is a crossroads of a village center. It really just that it is the one corner in this town where there's a couple of different shops within like a certain radius. And so it doesn't need to be like the suburban area that I grew up in. It can stay within my business.
So, and I think, and I think that's what we need to determine the definition of them, because I can see what you're seeing. Small quaint stores, but we need more. Small quaint property, but we need more, because there is nothing at the moment.
And emphasizing your point, and also that's probably an area that's right for, the time.
This was one that we identified.
Yeah,
Yes.
like it is, the drop, and there is a lot of vacant because, well, maybe not vacant, but privately owned and sitting empty, like, that's how one daycare was, that was then, country nuts, and now it's another for.
And I would go back to Matt's point as well. The emphasis on incentives for local business. Well, I would not agree with the Walmart, and I will probably pick it against it. Again, because of the nature of the community. That is something different.
What I've thought about this is that because of the traffic, because of the nature of the crossings, I would be thinking about the village center on the, what is that, the south side of Money Creek, the top of the picture there.
Bottom side. I think.
Okay, whatever the top of Money Creek, I can see more density there, better commerce in there, better small business in there, and housing in that area without having the danger of transiting across Muddy Creek. And I know there are a couple of small underutilized structures on the south side of Muddy Creek, but I wouldn't include them in something like this. I'm really seeing beefing up the commerce, adding some affordable housing in there, and limiting it to that side of the road. I think would be quite attractive and quite appealing in an area like this.
Is that your store at capacity?
You know, I don't know the area that well. I went through it and I got my eyes on the road.
By the Paceway. Where the Paceway is.
Oh, it's not.
But I don't think that any of that, a lot of that stuff, they're more like it's gonna last for a while.
I think the guy, whoever is maybe running month to month.
Yeah, it doesn't look well established.
There are lots of changes in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a reimagine.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, talk about reimagining out in the vicinity that William was talking about, out, 10, 15, 20 years. And it's hard to do that.
How it is if you do have some of the sort of there that you have the healthy employees and all that. But the problem is you have people who continue to invest in our area. And because it's not set up well, and because it's not so in a way that people feel like it's a town center, and they want to go and shop. I feel like you have people who are continuing with the same thing that was going on in South River, with South River. Like, people are investing and wanting to start a small business there and follow their heart and do something great, but when you don't have enough stuff going in there, it's so that you have the support of the community. People want
Which one?
The barber shop.
Okay.
And the commercial building next to that, whoever owns that, they just kind of fixed it up a little bit. I don't know if there's two people in one time, but I mean, That's the strip from the barber shop all the way to the Chalk Point Road.
It's like, yeah, he took me.
Yeah, so a huge part of the problem, living there is drug issues. So that entire strip is a drug haven, people go there and buy like illicit drugs. So that's why a lot of stores are opening and closing and things aren't going well. Literally on where the two companies was, drugs was being sold on Top Point Road. And that has been a huge problem on that. So, yeah, that would have to be considered in all of this.
Oh, one comment on that first area, that area, unlike Daleville, I think does have opportunity for a little bit more than is there now. On the north side, and I agree with Matt and Bill on the north side, that and as well. And all, I agree with all the comments. I think this has more opportunity for a significant revitalization and some adding in some more, area appropriate type size, smaller scale things that would fit in. This road is a highly trafficked road, also it's dangerous in some respects. There's still a lot of traffic, and I think a lot of opportunity for the actual commercial businesses to survive and thrive. I think it just needs a little direction.
Probably also needs to be like more involved in that area, probably in brokering, not, but brokering the right deals. Hopefully, or helping business maybe guide, like, for the bought over the everything he's been. Like, maybe not be able to. I think they have, we're just running a business out there. Of that area, and then the things that happen with the barbershop, you don't seem to be like the right person. Which I know is difficult to private and then to private. But, I mean, if you get somebody in there who doesn't necessarily care about what outside the business is going to become, it's difficult, but you can't play it. And then it's like the Chamber of Commerce, you never know.
So if I could recap, a couple of things we heard is, interest in like AEC programs that kind of have long support for, enhancing improvement. More focus on the north side, kind of think about the existing footprint that was built there to see can you do more with that footprint. So maybe revisiting the size of that village center destination, and keep in consideration all the environmental experiences area, which also might help shape that village center.
When we get to those conversations, we'll be able to say, hey, this is the floodline here, even all that environmental stuff. It's like very
so it's a really good count wetland though. It's got to really define wetland that you can get on the property, counties have access to private property, so we can do, there's some general mapping, but I would get the big and small. But
I will go with it. It's pretty wet.
yeah.
I do not like my heart, but I will see all our good hands. I was commenting on, I leave during the report process and my ability to click on layers on the online map.
So we can also clarify this conversation big on way, and I don't want you to be able to discourage if your idea is flawed now. This is the whole process about building consensus, just being able to speak your mind, speak your ideas in a very respectful way, right? Because this is not process. And you never know what idea you may be able to share and have the most buy-in from someone else in the exact next thing. So I always encourage you to share your ideas, no matter how crazy you think they are. It may not be that crazy.
So it's 8:33.
Yeah.
Can we keep this to 15 minutes?
And So, just really quick, 924 identifies this area as potential redevelopment opportunity site. It is not currently within an existing commercial revitalization area. This is a local commercial hub. There's the 364 MC and contains many maritime uses as well as retail business. Third, there are some older or underutilized properties that are needing improvements. We've heard comments about lack of walkability, sidewalks, especially with additional development and businesses. This area is a good location near public facilities, such as the library, school, post office, with potentially be a more vibrant activity center for the deal in church and communities. And you can see some concept plans and the usual slide.
So can I ask a logistics question about this map? The. That's a bridge that's going to Happy Harbor. So there is development and there are businesses, a good part of that, Summer Maritime. Yeah.
Several restaurants.
Several restaurants. Just wondering why it's limited that way. Is it the zoning? Is it because of the current zoning?
We, what's up on the screen is the current zoning map, and just as a general rule of thumb, like red is pink for commercial, blues are, where maritime, usually the darker color, the like
More intense.
more intense the use. So like the hot pink is a C4 and the indigo color is like an MC.
So my question really relates to the two yellow blocks on either side of the road.
Those are,
Resident.
yeah, this is R5.
Well, they are like marina. Residential.
They are business for use, which allow them to have, they're operating business legally under a different zoning designation. It could be grandfathered. There are a whole, they are business related, it could be, there's a whole bunch of reasons.
So essentially, I'm asking whether the footprint has the ability to be broadened. We're looking at this for the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. A wider version of marina. Very much.
What's the language?
I don't think that's an MA2, this is an MD, I think,
Yeah.
MC. I can also make sure y'all get like the zoning quick guide that gives you a little explanation of what all this means.
I will say, I'm on your employee and I'm surprised when, I'm brother from taxation and asking for commercial. In my house, so. Yeah, Marina's hard.
But yeah, so one of the steps later in this process later this spring, we are gonna take a closer look at the zoning map and try to think more about like, what did we talk about when we were envisioning this area? Does the zoning match that? That's gonna be a later conversation. Right now, what I wanna know is what in your world of stream does it there?
Just don't be gonna say, where the library is.
Oh, thank you.
That's the library.
I think, hold on, no, I think the library meeting further and get further this way.
It's up.
Further where? I think it's that way.
Yes, yeah, because the park is going in up there.
Yeah. Oh, no. No, let me get your own.
Yeah.
You see things towards the back.
Yeah, what's it?
No.
So one thing to kind of keep in mind, too, and Jesse mentioned also this, there are some uses permitted in every type of thing. And that's typically the public, so they're used to it. It doesn't really matter what zoning definition they are, they could be in. Right, where is the aerial? Nice. I had to bring back that. Yeah, here's the library.
That is easier. Thank you.
Okay.
There in Field Park, thank you, Mike, say.
Yeah.
40 years. So the book area has sidewalks, that's something that I talked about. Some sidewalks and not all.
There is none.
None, no. What does the housing diversity look like in this area? Can you see your grandma living? Your 20-year-old living here? I don't know, affordability or because
It's affordability, and then you have a problem with, redevelopment, so you're having a lot of folks in smaller houses, knocked down. And then a lot of people are going to be used as well, so you're making, eliminating
retail, and the limited amount of houses.
Older people, really, these large spots, they can't afford it.
Yeah.
So they all-
Or about the land, the tax.
Yeah, exactly, particularly on, what is that, the east side of the.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I would do it, but really, without impeding a bunch of people.
So we've got old folks who can't really age in place because they can't afford their homes anymore, and just a general lack of affordable housing. What would that kind of look like in this area to match the community in the field here? I mean, to be honest, I haven't driven through here or been through here, but I don't imagine there being like a 5-story building. What does it look like?
That's like a very difficult, I think, question, because like the reason that people are moving to this area is to have, like, I personally want to have the yard and space by you the country. So I think it's difficult for us because like a pocket community as someone who probably is for us, and talking about something why it's like appeal to me at all. I'd be more interested in to do it, because somehow limit the amount of buildup that you can have, because it's not the houses are there and they could be affordable with inflation. The problem is that you're battling, like, so when I built my house, somebody came in and offered me substantially over asking, the person that was on the market, who was not who you thought you would be appealing to, with how somebody my age, and for somebody else my age, who decided with something substantially older, offering substantially asking, and then being party didn't want to take it, but like it's money. So, and then the problem is they're probably going to knock it down and doing something that will then outprice us out of that area. So I think part of it is that you have these developments going on that are shifting the demographics on there. It's not that the housing market doesn't exist, the affordable houses are being
Converted.
certainly in the water.
Yeah, and you're covered for a lot area. I mean, they're building like the entire envelope that they're allowed to, and they are doing stormwater management, but it's not enough in these areas because you start getting a lot of runoff, a lot of cooling water.
And then additional people who have those additional houses. Yeah.
And that's the entire community.
So this may be failure of my imagination. But I can see this as a place for much more density.
Yeah.
Because of the transport and the geography of the area.
But I will say it's becoming a gathering area, we're starting to see more, sort of like, because of those houses in that type of area, we're starting to see a lot more traffic density, like right now, those people are parking in what will eventually be a park. You now have that hot rod pylon that is grown in, like, probably 10 times the size, and it's really cool, and I've never seen that many cars in my life. You have all the stuff going on, and you really have no community infrastructure to support that, and then there's the problem of like increased tourism, and there's no litter pickup. Like Lucia used to do litter pickup, and now.
If I find the litter, what else do you mean when you say community?
Well, you have all the people parking, you have all the people gathering, and there's not so like gathering in. What people do about parking lot. They have to bring it off, and I think it's probably virtually not dangerous because there are no sidewalks, you just have people driving by, speeding cars, they're doing perfect. Even not really.
But that's one morning.
Like on the bay, and then again, you have people who are gonna probably get killed because they're coming there to park.
Ready to do that?
Yeah. 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 Now we're adding this community event that everybody wants, especially this new demographic that's moving there, the businesses want it. And there's just not, like, where do people go to watch it one day? They go to private business areas that probably people want. And the restaurants have limited seating and limited parking, because then people are parking on side roads, overwhelming merchants that may not want them there, that are private areas. And
If you're describing, when you're just, for me, when you're describing, these are the things that more people want to have now as opposed to before. You're describing to me an area that's growing in a way that the system isn't built for,
yes,
the infrastructure isn't built for. And if that's gonna continue to be the case, well, people with more means buying middle housing, then I have to change my own thinking about what's possible there. Because I was just thinking, the point over Harbor where a bunch of charters stick up.
yeah, and contrary to public belief, most of the waterfront or all of the waterfront is not actually for public use. So there's no public access point, it's all private. We have a lot of that going on because now with the increased forest, though I have people asking all the time, oh, I see bush.
I think Dr. McKeon, I think we're running on time.
Just a question on logistics, in terms of Charleston versus Beale, the proximity to the two. Is there a compromise to have something between the two? And I'm just throwing this out, instead of having two villages which aren't possible. I'm trying to understand your thinking, identifying these two communities that are literally up against each other and trying to do this major change in both that are right beside each other.
This, this area of Neil is not a village. It's just it's a potential redevelopment opportunity. So.
And this was another corridor that we had identified as, to expand the.
So I saw.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say about this area, I think this is, there has been a fair amount of revitalization in this area over the last 10, 15 years. Buildings have been rebuilt, but a little more revitalization probably would occur. And I think some of the traffic issues that we've seen from special events, as we mentioned, and those are, I think, isolated. And I would be cautious about trying to build infrastructure for maximum use type things. But I think in general, you have a small, each village area or something, village area. It's not a big scale thing. It's all very small. Again, in all those areas, the small scale revitalization, a little bit of infill.
And I think it's pretty seasonal.
Yes.
Very seasonal. So to me, there's not, some of the issues are very similar to Galesville.
Yes.
Galesville gets a big event and it closed the doors off you guys, just like Beale does. And it would be the same in Shady Saturday. We're small and we have a hard time getting really big and then really small. Well,
And then around the slope.
I was just gonna say that there's, I mean, between those two places, there's plenty of other commercial things like along the way. It's not only here, it's not only up there, it is plenty of it. So there's more to look at than just.
yeah, like the whole nails and where our fabulous pizza came from, I mean, that's all of
Yeah.
So all the conversation we've had tonight, we just touched the surface. Right? We're gonna really be able to dig deep into the conversations come next year, really be able to talk about how we envision these village centers, these redevelopment plans, all this good stuff, and this should be all part of the plan.
I got one question. When I think of deal, I don't think of that being but half a deal.
No, sure. These are just snippets of these.
I mean, this would be like looking at Galesville from Benning Road on to the river.
No, absolutely. So we picked this site to discuss tonight because it's identified the fine point. Obviously, it feels much larger. Right? We're not limiting anything to anything. So we wanted to bring this up back to the school. This was designed to be a topic of conversation for SAC. It's very specific. But when we get the larger zoning conversation, we're going to talk about the whole area. We're not talking about just certain pieces. The whole region 9 will be discussed in whatever fashion you guys in the group want to discuss.
So I have just a quick question for the table. Is for the church then, Place where the pizza and the nail salon is, up to the deal. Do you think that is all one town? Do you say I'm going to Churchton, or do you say I'm going to deal means that?
Everybody, where I live in Columbia Beach and Deal Churchton, we don't separate it.
But for me, I would say like deal is gonna be church and like I debate it on that. Right.
Nobody really uses Churchton. Right, more deal than Churchton.
20 years ago, there were people here that called church.
So over the next couple of months, really thinking about your community, right? I think we're to drive around and it's safe and there's no snow or, just really kind of think about these questions, you guys are asking each other today. And when you're out and about. We're not gonna talk about the business, we did not pass out the summary that doesn't exist yet. For one thing, you guys think about, we as staff are gonna create a draft vision statement. I would highly encourage you all, if you guys are comfortable and want to create your draft vision statement. It's good to staff. We're gonna kind of show everybody's thought process and eventually kind of craft one Region 9 vision statement based on every information we've heard, the public, you all, the public meeting, everything. So if you guys really want to help participate in crafting a vision statement, you need to draft one and we need to provide a framework. Yes, so we can see you guys an example. But pretty much any comprehensive plan ever created involves there's been things in there. So that makes it, before we get to the public comment, I have one more slide. The next stakeholder advisory committee meeting is going to be on housing and redevelopment. It's Thursday, January 4, 5:30 to 8:30. It's going to be at the Southern District Police Station in Edgewater. After that meeting, so this will be a reminder again at the next meeting, we're gonna have a drop-in session talking about economic development and housing recommendations that we're gonna craft based on everything we've heard. It's gonna be January 23rd from 1 to 6:30, and then Edgewater Live. And then there will be an online questionnaire out, like there is now currently for the national environment. If you have any questions, email staff and anybody, any member of the public, feel free to reach out to region9@aacounty.org. We'll be happy to help. And that's all the staff has to present tonight.
I have a question. How many people showed up at the deal library for that session?
Yeah. So we had 6 USAC members, I think they close to 30 total, I think.
It was worth going. It was worth being there for a couple of hours.
Yeah, it was both.
So when we create our summary of this question.
So I asked with the onset to be thinking about continuous improvement. We're not going to take time to do that tonight because we may have people on the phone. So I have this email list and I still need your input, Bill. We will send as a follow-up a request for any feedback that you have individually in terms of how we can strengthen the process. What worked well tonight? What could we have done differently? How do we make this as responsive? You remember that we shortened some of the presentations and asked you to do the prep coming in so that we'd be more Q&A than being talked at. And I think that worked, but I'd like the feedback. And we'll circulate a couple of possible dates for February, the 2nd February meeting to do a recap. Any questions before we go to the phones or the people in the room?
And could that be a Zoom meeting, just in case they're right and we're gonna have a good snow this year?
We could use that as a backup. But the kind of conversations we want to have will do better face to face. But you know that we've already sent out information that says day of the process to be used if there is bad weather. That was an information that staff sent us. That morning of, we'll be notified if we're not going to meet in person.
Oh, that's missed that one.
So the thing would apply for 2nd February. So we have public input. If there's anybody in the room who wants to provide input, you are 2 minutes limitation. Anybody wanna provide input for the record?
And that's why I don't think I've been here.
Did you have something?
You guys have fun.
Just with regard to Galesville, obviously. In January, we're going to, the improvements is taking place, a Riverside Drive committee. Going to be very, relatively small, numbers. And we're going to find some local recommendations, not just on the land side, but also on the water side, because it's both an environmental issue and it's an economic issue. Economic issue. So we're going to try to combine the two, working with the rivers, the local rivers. And so we will have that report, at least that's my goal, we'll have that report while you're in the process of your activities. Well, we will be happy to provide that to you. Specifically with Galesville, I think there's a consensus in Galesville. Please stay away from spot zoning. Spot zoning is the kind of thing that I think most communities look at when you have one chunk of property that all of a sudden goes from residential to commercial. And that's the thing that I think there's a consensus in the community that we've got areas that can be developed, but please don't create areas that create another commercial area where we have to deal with ancillary issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Were there, if you want to ask any questions?
Thanks, Beth. Were there other people who signed up?
I don't think so. I think there's no one. But I'll be happy to find out if.
That's okay. Thanks, Beth. And do we have anybody on the Zoom who wanted to speak?
Only Anthony, so he's on the meeting already.
Did you get the one question and one input? Anthony, what was the question? Or did you get it, Eric?
This was from, in the questions and answers section from Anna, Cheney. I didn't know if, you got that. Do you want me to copy and paste it into the chat?
No, yeah, I see it. I do see the two comments.
Okay.
Yeah, so one comment was just about, I guess the microphone has been a little challenging this evening. We'll try to improve on that.
Yeah, I was experiencing that as well. The main speakers, whoever the main speakers were coming in very loud, but then anybody else commenting, we need to make sure that we're projecting when we speak, because it wasn't picking it up that well. Other than that, sorry, I missed the pizza. Boo.
The pineapple pizza was good, Anthony. You would have liked it.
Thanks.
There were four.
Rub some more salt in.
And there's none left, so we can't bring you any.
Thanks.
There's a question.
I feel
Another
about.
question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So the other question was, essentially, is the comprehensive process of this initiative outlined on the county website? If so, can you provide the link? Yes, I recommend going to the hub site. All the information is there, which is aacounty.org/region9. There's a lot of good information about the process there, as well as our aacounty.org website in general for a long range of topics.
So are we going to have other opportunities to talk about economic development besides this kind of spot closure thing tonight?
And yeah, what else? What else would you like to talk about regarding economic development?
Well, I don't think I want to start the conversation now because everybody wants to go, but I think that there is a whole different way of looking at things. Because I'd like to hear what everybody thinks about the discussion and what even in as I talked to Anna today, because I was going to move on to them. But we're coming at it from an agritourism perspective, and we have a whole different way of looking at this besides looking at scales of. I mean, I don't look at that at all. I look at South County as an agro-ecotourism destination site, which includes a visit to Galesville for lunch and maybe to buy some art. And then to go to the circle at Kitty Drive and bicycle, and then go to the farm, hit the vineyards for wine, and maybe do an Airbnb and all of those things. But if we continue to look at it as little, none of these little areas are safe minors, right? So it's, they can go to St. Michael's, for example, but why don't we be, why don't we be a whole destination? I could spend 2 days doing all the things that they have here and all the events. If we could create a community, and the community is not Galesville, the community is Galesville, Steele, Harrington Park, Shady Side, all of us working together as one community to give an offering and us working together, so that we go to Galesville and really have, oh, we like to buy some antiques and now right? Or I want to go for a boat ride, we send them, you know, that, and we have transportation, and the transportation for us has got to be primarily small trolley land-based or possibly water-based, but water-based, it's an all-day boat ride, you know, to do. You can't get it.
So, long story short, yes, we multiple opportunities, and one of the biggest opportunities to have to discuss anything that you want more of is during that zoning conversation. The zoning is tired. So when you talk about having connections and having one big community instead of the chunks, we did the chunks today just to get the foundation. Understand what kind of get the ball rolling, see where you guys are coming from, mindsets. But when we get to that zoning conversation, that's where you talk about, well, it's really cool to have this up here, if it's connected to here, we need this, or to do this over here, match over here, and that's where the puzzle start to go. Vision statement as well. Vision statement is a very good foundational piece that really helps set the way for the whole plan.
And I think it's good to talk about. Well, that too, but to me, what is it that we're an economic engine about? Well, we're clearly not a target area for industrial, right?
So it goes back to, what do you think is missing? What do you want? What do you envision? That's all for the zoning process.
For me, the parts versus the whole. When I hear you saying, no one talking about the whole, we've been talking about the parts.
Well, if we're asking for money, if we're asking for them, we're asking for them, we don't want to develop the farmland because we put more money and we have a tourism. We are. We talking this loan of this thing as well. Our real value to the county of tax revenue, right? Is bringing tourists in, having a breathe, don't have to build all the schools, spending taxes, the high sales tax and borrowing, right? Versus a warehouse. And look at Prince William County, they're hating with all the data centers there. Tourism is a great way to make a living if they'll leave. And we have, you know, we have that. We have all the so except transportation and then away from them and walk around Galesville and not having tourists get run over killed, right? So we're gonna make it safe for that, but then it makes sense for somebody to spend money fixing up a little old house in Galesville for a shop. But if you don't have the people to buy stuff in your shop, like Grover won't really buy that 4 acres across the street from him for $900,000. Are you kidding me? What am I gonna grow in there? And you can't even make it much money grow high anymore, right? To justify that as a cap, you know.
I would like to make, just bring up something very short. As we're closing, we talked about, all regular tourism and maritime trades. And bed and breakfasts. Airbnbs, and junk jobs, but one of the, I don't mean. Something that's in the shadows that covers all the communities that we talked to tonight wasn't brought up, and I'm here representing that industry is commercial fishing. And the commercial fishing industry also is your charter boat industry.
Right, yeah.
It is also a link to all the restaurants that we love to get fresh seafood locally. And so at a later date, I hope that we have spend a little time on that because the commercial fishermen have some ideas that they would like to bring to this spot.
Sure, and that's one thing we have heard, and I mentioned way at the beginning, that fishing it was a key piece of work on the bond trust, absolutely.
Well, and it boils down to the bay. Everybody wants to live here or come here and spend the weekend, spend the afternoon, or whatever. So the bay is sensitive to your own county. Yeah.
Well, what we don't need is a bunch of people moving in here who don't like the watermen and all their nets and all their crab pots and the farmers with all the equipment I
We'll
have.
save that discussion for next time.
You mess.
Anybody opposed?
Nope.
So moved.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Very much.
Thanks.